Hello, everybody. Is this thing on? Can you guys hear me okay? As you might know, when I do these shows by myself, technically, a lot of the times, technically, I am technically challenged. So we end up with audio issues, picture issues, all that kind of stuff. So let me know if it sounds okay. I'm Jez from Windows Central and also Xbox 2 podcast. We were planning to do an XB2 podcast today with Rand. Unfortunately, though, Rand, my good buddy, has the flu. Um, since he had pneumonia a few months ago, it feels like he gets respiratory illnesses fairly often. Like my mom had pneumonia, and the same thing happened to her as well. So hopefully, we're gonna get better soon. I did say on Patreon that we were coming back for a show on Friday, but I'm actually going to a Halloween thing on Friday, so we're gonna have to aim for the proper Xbox 2 show probably on Thursday this week. Um, but yeah, I will send around all of your regards and hello to everyone in chat. We got Newis, we got Mr. Supernova, we got Hazardor, Huffy Bear, Punkish Rogue, and all the other cool party people. Yeah, so I don't know how this works. I'm not really good at doing solo shows. I'm used to having someone to bounce off of. I did try and rope Paris Lily into it at the last minute, but Paris isn't available. So I just thought I shouldn't be pestering people to come on the show at such short notice. So I thought, right, we'll go solo for a change. We'll go solo and we'll grind some world quests because I need to do a ton of world quests for this Legion Remix event because I don't want to miss out. I got super FOMO and I don't want to miss out on the epic transmog skins that you can only get for the next 80 days in WoW. I'm trying to get that done. Very, very important, guys. You all know about FOMO, right? So yeah, this is yeah, someone asked if this was pre-recorded. No, this is completely live, although I suppose if you're watching it later, it won't be live. It's October 27th at 7 p.m. UK right now. Usually it's 8 p.m. UK we go live, but we've got a week of weird daylight saving stuff going on between America and the UK, where America and the UK is 1 hour closer together because of all that daylight saving shenanigans and all that kind of stuff. So, I suppose the way this is going to work is you guys give me stuff to talk about, right? We'll probably do Patreon Q&As as well later on. Although I don't know whether to save those for the main show. Probably save those for the main show. But yeah, this is World of Warcraft, the best game ever made, by the way. USA feels closer to JEZ than ever before, 1 hour closer. That is true. That is true. It's too bad Rand didn't get the Xbox Ali X. He could play it while bedridden, says Huffy Bear. Yeah, exactly. Right. That's the whole thing, right? Highlanders Grim says Jez play Ball X Pit. Highly recommend it. Yeah, Ball Pit is amazing. I've been playing it a lot on this bad boy, Xbox Ally. It's become my like nightly ritual now. I just sort of like get into bed and instead of doom scrolling, I just go on the Xbox Ally and play Ball Pit or some other game that has really good battery life on that device. And absolutely fantastic that shit is, man. We've also got and then Xbox Nation. Been diving into any more BF6? Yeah, I played Battlefield 6 yesterday with one of my friends in real life. I find Battlefield is a game that feels a lot better when you're playing with friends and stuff like that. Because of like, just the way the way the game works with all the different kits and loadouts and how sort of squads work and how collaborating just enhances the experience all up. So I tend to play Battlefield 6 with my friend when we can both get on at the same time, but he's got like a young kid, so can be tough to all get online at the same time, as I'm sure some of you older gamers like myself will probably be aware of. But the big news of the day, which is in the title, the big news of the day that I put out there is some sort of more definitive confirmation about what a lot of us expected the next Xbox to look like. I think a lot of us right now were expecting it to have Steam, Epic Games Store, all that kind of stuff. But up until sort of recently, it was sort of like a speculative kind of thing. Is it really going to be this? Can they really pull it off? That kind of stuff. And over the last few weeks, over the summer, I've been seeing like hints here and there that there really is work going on to make this a reality. I don't know if any of you guys saw like headlines recently that were taken out of our Discord, the XP2 Discord. where I mentioned that Microsoft was working on some kind of emulator for emulating Xbox games on Windows. So like I dug a little bit more into that, and it's basically the work that's been done to get your Xbox games running on the next gen Xbox, which will need AMD Silicon, I'm told, in order to run those games. But it'll all be seamless if they pull it off, right? The way it'll work is you'll just see the games that can run on the device in the library. So I'll turn on the Xbox Ally here so you guys can check it out. But basically, anyone who's got an Xbox Ally right now is beta testing the next Xbox operating system. It's a sort of like, it's a bridging of the gap between Xbox PC and Xbox console. And it kind of like, you know, when you turn it on, you get this first and foremost. This is the Xbox PC store. But when you're running it on an Xbox Ally, it is all you get, right? This is the app you get. And if you hold down the Xbox button, you get like the multitasking experience. You can move between games and apps and that kind of stuff. But if you want to exit out into full Windows, you have to like make the effort to actually go to multitask and then click down here. And then when you do that, you end up in the full Windows experience. The idea is that like it'll all be seamless. So if you're running Xbox console games on the next Xbox, it'll just feel like a console. In a similar way to that, if you're running on the Xbox Ally and you just run an Xbox Play Anywhere game, it just feels like a console. Things only really get complicated when you start trying to come out of that experience, you know, because obviously Windows is not designed to be used with anything other than a mouse and keyboard. It's not designed to be run on a TV and all that kind of stuff. But over the next few years, couple of years, I presume, maybe 3 years, Microsoft's working to make that entire experience functional on a TV with a controller. So, like, I can dock this right now. You can dock this to a TV, much like you can Nintendo Switch, with any Thunderbolt dock, HDMI, power, Ethernet, USB devices, Bluetooth, whatever you want. And then you functionarily have a Windows Xbox PC gaming thing, you know. So there's a lot of kinks to iron out to get to that polished sign of experience that I think console players want and deserve and expect. Console players don't want to be messing around with drivers. They don't want to be messing around with settings, all that kind of stuff. And Microsoft is, you know, actively working towards making that a reality. It's already a reality to some degree on the Xbox Ally. Some of the things that are sort of the disparity right now with the Xbox Ally is that you still have to do quite a lot of tweaks per game. Sometimes, especially 3D games or more intensive games or less optimized games, you have to do like a lot of tweaks to get some of that stuff working properly. But Microsoft's shipping something soon on the Ally called Game Profiles, where it will be like, okay, the game will know I'm running on a Z2 Extreme Xbox Ally, and it will change the settings of the game to give you the best experience. You'll still be able to tinker out of the box, but there'll be a default kind of experience for that device. Whereas like developers making games for the next gen Xbox hardware, they will know exactly what kind of hardware they need to target. And the Xbox store will be like, okay, this is the next gen Xbox. Here's the settings I need to offer here, you know. So it is going to be an effort to get there, I think. But that is what they want to do. That's what they want to deliver. And that's, if they execute it well, you'll get the out of the box console experience. But on the side, if you want it, you'll be able to open to full Windows. You'll be able to run Steam, Epic Game Store, good old games, stuff like Adobe Premiere, Microsoft Office. You could run Blender on it because it's going to be a high-end PC. You could develop games on it, man. You know, all up. You could do anything that you can do with a PC on it. But it'll have the silicon to run your current console game library. So, you know, but how much is it going to cost? That's the kicker, right? Because as we all know, Windows has overheads. Windows has its overheads. Windows needs a lot of power to run all that code that lights up backwards compatibility. The ultimate backwards compatibility is compatibility with 40 years of Windows bullshit, right? So it's going to be a lot of work, a lot of investment to make all that work. And it's going to require collaboration between Xbox and Windows that is frankly unprecedented. Like, Windows and Xbox has never worked this closely together before and this aggressively before, because I think they're feeling the heat from SteamOS. Because SteamOS is going to launch their own console very soon in the coming years. And the Steam OS console, Steam Deck for your TV or whatever, that's going to have all PlayStation games, it's going to have all Xbox games, and it's going to have the openness that comes with Linux, yeah? A lot of developers don't target Linux today, but that could change. Increasingly so, that could change. We could see native Linux versions of the Riot client and all that kind of stuff. And I know there's a lot you can do with Linux to make that stuff work. You can get Battle.net on it. Like, I've run World of Warcraft on a Steam Deck. I can't, there was a lot of hoops to jump through, but like with Windows, that should get better over time as Valve invests more into it, right? So, there's a lot of moving parts here, but the whole sort of landscape of exclusives are going to look really. The whole argument about exclusives is gonna look really funny when Steam comes out with its console, and it has everything. It has all of Xbox's games, it has all of PlayStation's games, and it's gonna have Nintendo's games via nefarious, means potentially. So all that kind of stuff is just it's gonna seem silly. All this debate over exclusives is gonna seem really silly when Steam comes out with its own box. I think you're gonna see PlayStation probably bringing games to that device natively via the Epic Game Store. I wouldn't be surprised if PlayStation someday made their own PC store and was just like, we'll take 100% of the revenue instead of the 70% that Valve gives us, or the 88% that Epic Games gives us. Why not just take 100%, make your own store, and have 100% of the revenue? Obviously, it's not free to run your own store, but you should end up with better margins if you do it right in the end, right? Stick that on the Xbox thing, and then Xbox gamers can buy the games like that. But that's the direction Xbox is going in, and I think if they can execute it well, I think it'll be fantastic. As I say this as someone who's currently playing World of Warcraft on a PC, and I am someone who does play across PC and across Xbox. I use PC for games that I can't get on Xbox, or games that just don't handle well with a mouse and keyboard, without a mouse and keyboard. Like Factorio, Stellaris, strategy games, weird, esoteric indie games that just, don't really care about launching on console at all. There's a lot of great stuff on Steam. Or, classic games like GOG, for example. I've played a lot on GOG these days. It's so awesome. Like, the classic Capcom games that GOG's been landing lately. Bought all those straight out of the box. And those kind of games run great on the Ally. You can run them in low power mode. Doesn't take any battery or anything. It's great. But that's what they're going for. Can they execute it? I don't know. Will Amy Hood one day decide she wants a new yacht and pull the plug? I don't know. But I know that as of today, right now, this shit's greenlit all the way up the chain, and hopefully we'll see it materialize. Maybe announcements in 2026 with a view to launch in 2027. Or maybe like tease in 26, reveal in 27, maybe launch in 2028. I don't know. Suppose it depends, right? So let's see some of these responses here. I'm scrolling up now. We got a super chat from Chris. Thank you so much for $5. JEZ, can you clarify what you mean by backwards compatibility? Is everything currently available on Series X or every Xbox game ever, including OG? Yeah, like it'll have everything that runs on the Series X right now. Everything, I think like there will be sort of situations where maybe there's a licensing issue, I don't know, and some games don't make it across for that reason. I think, but the vast majority of things should be there. So it'll have the silicon to make it happen. It's just a case of like, you know, is the legality there? I'm not sure, but we'll see. I'm sorry, I'm just moisturizing my tattoo. This is what you have to do when you get a new tattoo. Because it's all the skin's dead and my body's rejecting the ink, so we moisturize it to keep it from getting janky. So what else have we got here? Luso says, "JEZ, you look good, slimmer. Keep it up." Yeah, I've lost 60 pounds. We can do more, and we'll try and do more. But yeah, we've been on a health kick lately. I went to the gym yesterday. I went on a big walk today. So, but the thing, I've done this before. Like a few years ago, I lost 100 pounds and gained it all back. So, you know, it's like a yo-yo. We're currently on the downward track, but we'll probably end up going back in the opposite direction. Let's be real. Hazardor says, price is the only issue for me for next gen. Yeah, I mean, the price is going to be a thing that comes up a lot. I think one of the things that Xbox is deciding right now, from what I've heard, then they're still deciding whether or not to open up the AMD silicon to OEMs. I'm wondering what people think about that. Because like right now, Microsoft will have in that scenario, Microsoft will have exclusivity on the Xbox catalog. So like everything that's on Series S and X and older, Microsoft will have exclusivity on that. Or they could open up that chip to OEMs and let Asus, Dell, Razer, whoever, make their own Xbox consoles. So you could end up seeing like cheaper Xbox consoles that are less powerful, or more powerful Xbox consoles that have like premium everything going up to $2,000 or something like that. I wonder what you guys think of that. Do you think Microsoft should open it up to OEMs, or should they keep their library exclusive to the Xbox brand? I think they're still deciding on that, I think. Got my cup of tea here. Whiskey Bay, when is WoW getting Xbox achievements? I don't know, man. I mean, World of Warcraft has its own achievement system. So, you know, don't need Xbox achievements. I've got these cool Warcraft achievements, which are way, way cooler. Because, like, you actually get rewards for doing these achievements, man. Which is awesome. Like this. Reach level 80 with a Warrior and Legion remix, and you get a mount. You know, that's pretty cool, right? Do you remember back in the day, you used to get, like, avatar rewards for doing some Xbox achievements? It'd be awesome if that came back. What else we got here? PlayStation will be given a cheaper alternative versus Microsoft. I mean, yeah. I mean, I think everyone expects the PlayStation Next to be cheaper. But, you know, Xbox will have everything. So it's kind of like, what do you want? Do you want this or that? You know, there'll be options for people. You know, maybe a lot of people will prefer the PlayStation experience. And there'll be people who want to get Steam and Xbox stuff on a single device, or just want a more powerful Xbox Series S and X. Because, you know, if it does have like some of this MPU stuff that Microsoft's working on, like next year for the Xbox ROG Ally X, they're going to start using the MPU to deliver auto super resolution. So you'll be able, in theory, to have a better version of AMD's FSR stuff, where you can run the game at a lower resolution, and then it uses AI to upscale it, and it'll offer a more picture clarity, or frame generation with the MPU and stuff like that. Because like frame generation technology, like, it's not great right now. It introduces a lot of latency, and it looks a bit, when you use frame generation, like whether it's lost the scaling on Steam or whether it's like the AMD stuff, it looks a bit like you've dropped an acid tab, to be honest. Like everything's got this like weird after image. But hopefully like that technology will improve as well. And then you can end up in a situation where like the ROG Ally retroactively gets better battery life. And maybe you can end up with like, you know, cheaper hardware that can make the games look better using, you know, AI bullshit. I don't know. So that's like one thing that AI can actually be good for. Like, instead of replacing human workers, make the technology we've got better. You know, shouldn't that be what AI is for, instead of like trying to replace people and shit? What else we got here? Deadly Headley, thank you, brother. Disc option. Yeah, so this is a good question. I've been asked a lot of questions about whether or not the next Xbox will have a disc drive. I'm still investigating this. My gut instinct is that it probably won't have a disc drive. Because as Microsoft moves away increasingly from discs and developers move increasingly away from discs, Steam games don't have discs, for example. I can see, unfortunately, the possibility that it won't have a disc drive panning out. However, since it will be a PC, I would hope that Microsoft offers some kind of technology to let people plug in a USB Blu-ray drive and sort of get that compatibility without, having to jump through too many hoops. I would hope that it would come with a disc drive, just for people who, have been really invested in this ecosystem and have built up collections, But it's really, really hard to say which direction they'll go in. But we've seen the trends, right? You've all seen the trends. Fewer and fewer people are buying physical discs. More and more people are going to digital. So that kind of like makes it hard, probably for them, to justify going against the grain, right? But maybe we get an external disk drive or compatibility with, random Blu-ray drives, and then Microsoft can somehow do a licensing check there without compromising security with regards to piracy and that kind of thing. We'll see. There's something I'm trying to get something concrete on. Blue Quo says, I think opening up to OEMs is the best option. Yeah, probably, man. TJ says, JEZ for weight loss. I started buying a lot of Holland and Barrett low calorie rice. It's like 9 calories for 100 grams. Is that I think I've seen that rice. Isn't it like made of mushrooms or something? I don't know. I'm not very good at nutrition. I've been eating quinoa and whole wheat rice, which has a better glycemic index, and whole wheat pasta. But the problem is with me, I still snack a lot, especially like after work, and you just want to lie down with some nachos and watch YouTube or something. I think me and Rand have talked about this before, but I snack too much, man. I haven't gained any weight, but like I've kind of been stuck at 60 pounds for a few weeks now. We'll see what happens. Reb Demo says, open it up to OEMs, then lightly curate the release schedule so that OEMs aren't releasing new Xboxes every month. Become hardware fatigue at that point. I don't know, Rave. I mean, Windows doesn't have hardware fatigue. And the person that runs Xbox hardware now, the very person at the top of Xbox hardware, is Rowan Sones. And she's the woman who created an OEM empire for Windows. So if there's anyone who knows how to build with OEMs, it's Rowan. And this is kind of like her universe that she lives in, is curating these kind of hardware experiences with partners. The benefit of OEMs is that you can use their sales channels and their distribution methods and their marketing and license out Windows. So like OEMs pay a certain amount of dollars for a Windows license, which is one reason why the ROG Ally is more expensive than Steam Deck. Asus has to pay Microsoft the license for Windows, right? So that's the business model for Windows. You could maintain that for Xbox Windows gaming devices as well. So there's a new revenue stream there potentially if you do flood the market with Xbox devices. You kind of lose some of that curation there potentially, but at the same time, you create a revenue stream which allows us to have things like free multiplayer potentially. So like the current plan, I'm told, is that the next gen Xbox won't have a paywall for multiplayer, but they've got to like look to other ways to make up for that lost revenue. Maybe the licensing model is one way of doing it, right? Just flood the market with OEM Xboxes and let like Samsung or Asus or Acer or Razer or whoever do their own marketing to their audiences in their home turf, their home countries, do the sales distribution, all the stuff that Microsoft isn't the best at. I think that's a good play. Yeah. Face 23BKNY with the $20. Thank you so much, buddy. I see people in certain podcasts saying confirm no power for Xbox. If you're wrong, people are going to come after you. Yeah, sure, man. You know, I mean, when I wrote that, I put it in the speculation section rather than the report section because I know plans can change. And the person who told me this was pretty adamant that it was like the current plan is for no Power. But if people come from me, then it's fine. People have been mad at me before. It'd be nice for them to be mad at me for something else than the tweet from 2 years ago about no multi-platform games, right? I've been like, on my reporting, I've had so many wins, whether it's like Project Kennen, the Xbox Ally. I was the first person who reported on that. You know, I was the first person to report the specs of the Series S, the price of all this stuff, and all this other stuff. All that kind of stuff. And you know, even stuff like Mortal Kombat and the Metal Gear Solid remake, or the Metal Gear collection. I think that was my leak as well. You know, so I've got so much like positive reporting under my belt that I'm not worried about having a couple of mistakes here and there. But let them come, man. If there's a pie war for next gen, then fine, I'll take the L. But that's the plan at the moment, is for there to be no pie war. Kids says, do you ever get Steam inside info? Not really, mate. No Steam inside info. Sometimes I get stuff about Steam if it's like directly related to Xbox, because obviously a lot of my sources are at Microsoft. So like, I'll only get information for other platforms usually if it's gone through Microsoft in some way, because I haven't really worked. I've worked for 10 years on getting Microsoft sources. You know, building a platform around Microsoft that I just haven't really, you know, I don't cover PlayStation, I don't cover Steam. So I don't really know anyone in that universe. But it's also like Microsoft's like a big leaky company. So, you know, it's a little bit easier with Microsoft. Like Microsoft's like on easy mode when it comes to getting inside information, but Valve's like a small, very tightly knit, flat organization. I wouldn't be surprised if there's just no way to get leaks on some of these companies without doing something illegal potentially. Onyx Gaming says, Jez, are you going to get BlizzCon? I am potentially going to BlizzCon. I'm just kind of like, I'm nervous about the border situation in America right now. So like, are they going to check my phone and shit when I get to the border? Because I wouldn't want that. So I don't know, man. We'll see. I'd love to go to BlizzCon though. It's a bucket list thing of mine. I've never been able to afford it before. Now I'm in a position to be able to afford it. So I'd love to go to BlizzCon, of course. You know, Blizzard's like my first love, for better or worse. StarCraft, Overwatch, Diablo, World of Warcraft, all my most nostalgic gaming memories. I think the way I feel about Blizzard is the way a lot of people feel about Nintendo and stuff like that, you know. So like, it's why I don't begrudge people who like Nintendo stuff, because like, look at this game, you know, it's 20 years old. It looks 20 years old, but it's just, there's no more relaxing way to play a game than play this for me. This is like pure comfort food for me. So yeah, BlizzCon is a dream, man. Dirt Greg says, did you say Xbox is still deciding on OEMs? Any prediction on the partner preview showcase next month? Silent Hill 2 remake possibly. So I don't have any information on what's actually at the showcase, other than it's looking like a lot of Xbox Play Anywhere games. I've heard that like it might be all Xbox Play Anywhere games, not just like a few or most. It might be all Play Anywhere games. So we'll see if that actually pans out. I'm just going to ram this thing. There we go. But yeah, predictions. I don't know. What would you guys like to see? Obviously, Silent Hill 2 is one I would like to see. Silent Hill 2, I've got it on PC and I've played it a fair bit on PC. But I was gonna play it on the ROG Ally, but I don't know, man. Playing a horror game on a small screen kind of sucks some of the atmosphere out of it. So I was like, shall I play it on PC? When I'm sitting at PC though, I tend to get distracted. So like, it's good playing a game like WoW because it doesn't really matter if you get distracted playing WoW because it's a bit like riding a bike. It's a bit brain dead playing WoW a lot of the time. Especially I play DPS, so DPS is like the easiest job in the world if you're in WoW. But so I end up like getting distracted and not focusing. So when it comes to story games, I do tend to prefer my Xbox and the TV. So like I can put the Windows notifications to the side. And I know this is a completely ridiculous, subjective, and very much a me problem. But yeah, I'd love to see Silent Hill 2 there. I don't know what else could be there. I know Microsoft. What's that game Microsoft's making in partnership with Game Freak? Beast something? Beast Reincarnate? I can't remember what it's called. Maybe we see that there. You know, maybe we could see some like Ninja Gaiden DLC or something. They announced because I think they already said there's DLC come from Ninja Gaiden, unless I'm thinking of something else. But I don't know. I mean, there's I've heard that like one of the things I've heard from people in the industry is that 2026 is going to be another really stacked year for gaming. Like there's going to be like loads of heavy hitters. Obviously we've got GTA 6 and then there's the Four Horsemen, Fable, Forza, Gears, Halo. And then you're probably going to have like some random indie games which blow up like Expedition 33 or Ball Pit or whatever. Or Megabonk. Like everyone's going crazy about Megabonk on Steam right now. But yeah, I don't know. Big Afro Man with the 5. Thank you so much, mate. What do you think the Xbox handheld will look like? Will it just be Xbox games or be like Asus, a more PC like? Why compete with the partner? Good work. So, I suppose like this is one of the weird things about the OEM, the whole OEM model, right? Because Microsoft obviously works with partners to make Windows devices, but they also have their own Windows devices with Surface, right? Sometimes Surface has gone up directly against OEMs in the past. And I've always wondered, what do those conversations look like behind closed doors? You know, do OEMs hate Surface? Because when Surface was at its height, when they were releasing the Surface Book and stuff like that, I was just like, I will never buy an OEM laptop again because the hardware on this shit is so fancy and premium and stuff. And yeah, it was expensive. And I think like what really screwed over Surface in the end was the thermals, man. The thermals were so bad on those devices. And in the summer, they would just not work properly anymore. They would throttle to hell. So like you buy them in the winter and it's pretty clear they're made in like air conditioned laboratory conditions. And they don't think about like, well, what about Europeans that don't have air conditioning? These devices are no longer going to function. They literally don't function if you don't have air conditioning. So I didn't end up not buying them, but I do wonder what those conversations look like. But, you know, to round it back to your question, what do you think the Xbox handheld will look like? Well, I think in essence, if it's a first party Xbox device, it needs to run Xbox games. But at the same time, I'm kind of like curious about what that looks like. Because obviously with the next gen Xbox, you're going to have the overhead there to run Xbox Series X versions of games on top of whatever emulation work the machine has to handle. Whereas like if you do an emulation work on something that's maybe the power of a Z2 Extreme, I don't know what that looks like. Like, will the Xbox Series S version suffice in that universe? And then do you need overheads for that? I don't know. It gets all a bit techno confusing. But I think over time, over the coming years, more and more games will just be native to the Xbox PC ecosystem. And, you know, on devices that maybe can't run those games natively, remote play and cloud gaming will have to be the option, I think. But I honestly don't know, man. I mean, Microsoft got the backwards compatibility layer running for 360 and OG Xbox games with all the complexity there. So I would hope that Microsoft can deliver some of that technical wizardry. We'll see what happens, man. Navy Shadow says, Jez, wish you would go live on here more often to react to game showcases. I appreciate that, man. I mean, I often think to myself, I want to do more of this kind of stuff, but I often just like, I'm so tired. Like, a lot of the times before we podcast, I have to have a nap first and shit, you know? And sometimes, like, often after work, I just lie down and just like, I want to do stuff. And, you know, today is a bit different because I'd had all this stuff written already. And then, like, I was able to take a break for a bit. And then I was prepared to do a podcast today, but then Rand was sick. So Rand's got the flu. For those who don't know, those are just tuning in. Rand's got the flu. So that's why Rand isn't here today, and we're doing a little bit of a fun solo show. James Whitfield says, if I have a PC, will I be able to tap into the new backwards compatibility when I finish the solution? So I'm pretty sure, James, that to get the full force of Xbox backwards compatibility with the Series X and beyond, you need the AMD silicon. But, you know, I've heard rumors and hints that, like, there are some games that are sort of like, they're close enough to PC that they could run an emulation without needing the silicon. I don't know how true that is or how Microsoft will handle that. So take that with a huge bag of salt. But we'll see what happens, man. I mean, if anyone can pull some of this stuff off, it's Microsoft, right? So Dark Fox says, wait, isn't MS selling the handheld? Microsoft is selling the Asus ROG Ally, but it's mostly Asus handling everything with regards to that hardware. You know, Asus made the device, they priced the device, they're the ones distributing the device into Best Buy and those channels and stuff. So it's like, it's gone through Asus's typical sales channels, like their laptops do or anything else. Like my cousin has an Asus gaming laptop, and I've got the old Asus ROG Ally in the drawer. I'm supposed to send that to Zach Bowden, and I keep forgetting of doing it. Yeah, I don't know. Let's see what else we got here. TJ says, "Oh, we had any more super chats?" So this is one of the issues. I'm not very well set up for like keeping track of super chats and stuff. So if I miss a super chat, you're gonna have to spam me. Let's scroll down. We've got Jabera, who says, hoping to see Wuthering Waves on Xbox, but probably next year with Honkai Star Rail. Still wish we get Mega Man Battle Network and Star Ocean, the second story remake. Yeah, there are some games that like Mega Man Battle Network that have sort of like, I was told some of those older games undergo like a code freeze, and that there's just like kind of nobody working on them. But with regards to Monster Hunter Stories, I suppose it made a lot of sense for them to double down on Monster Hunter Stories since they're releasing the third game. And it'd be kind of weird if you're like a Monster Hunter person on Xbox and you don't even have access to those games. They're coming to other platforms as well, aren't they? Not just Xbox. So, you know, but with regards to some of those other kind of games, like Mega Man Battle Network, they're probably like, is this maybe too niche to bother pulling that code out of storage? I don't know, man. But in theory, on the next Xbox, you'll be able to just pick it up on Steam, anything that skips, right? We've also got RP Spaces. Didn't Tim Dog and Ybarra say hardware is done? They did, but then Sarah came out and said that they're not done, and they've got the partnership with AMD. I suppose like one of the issues is you've got we live in a universe where Microsoft changes its mind all the time. So like what's true of Xbox today might not be true tomorrow. And I think that's one of the issues that we've got in general with the whole Xbox sort of messaging and faith in the brand, because they keep changing their tune. It's like, oh, it's only 4 games, and there it's not only 4 games, and and you can go back and see quotes from Phil and others, and Satya and all these other dudes during the trial where they're talking about how, they want to have, they do things a certain way because that's the way the industry is, and then they've kind of gone back on a lot of that stuff, if not all of it. So, but what's true today is that we're still getting Xbox hardware. And plans can change. A meteorite might hit us and kill us all tomorrow. Isn't there supposed to be like some big meteorite passing by Earth soon? I often hear that, where it's like, oh yeah, there's a meteorite coming and it's got like a 2% chance of hitting Earth. 2%'s not odds that I would like, really. That's quite good. But I don't know, man. Let's see what else we got here. Abdel says, "Yo, Jez, when's Metal Gear Solid 4 on Xbox?" Yeah, so there is supposed to be a Metal Gear Solid Volume 2 coming out, isn't there? Metal Gear Solid Volume 2. I think Konami said fairly recently that there'll be an update on that soonish. So I presume that Volume 2 comes with Metal Gear Solid 4, right? I mean, I love Metal Gear Solid 4. I played through it like 2 or 3 times. Not a lot, but I had a PlayStation 3, but it was like my brother's PlayStation 3, and I purchased Metal Gear Solid 4 to play on my brother's PlayStation in his room, just because I was such a big big Metal Gear Solid stan, but not necessarily that interested in playing anything else at the time that wasn't World of Warcraft shaped. But Metal Gear Solid 3 is underrated, man. I think a lot of people thought it was weird, and I think one of the reasons why Metal Gear Solid 4 hasn't aged as well as some of the other Metal Gear Solids is because it was so hard to access. Not that many people had access to it, you know. And by the time like PlayStation 3 sales started to pick up, a lot of people had moved on already, I think, So like they weren't like going back to play like Metal Gear Solid 4, which, if I remember correctly, you launched sort of earlier on in the cycle. I remember that game having like 5-minute loading times or something crazy, because it just it just had the longest cutscenes. There's like 40-minute cutscenes popping off, but it's like, man, this is cinema, man. This is pure cinema. Some of those cutscenes with Raiden and Vamp fighting on the geckos, just fucking Kojima, man. Kojima's gonna Kojima, bro. Kojima just Kojima so hard, man. Han Solo says, Jez, any news about Elder Scrolls 6? I don't have any news about Elder Scrolls 6, but it was shown off at an internal Microsoft event before the June showcase. That's the last thing I heard about it. Which, if you remember, me and Rand predicted, our wild card prediction for the June showcase was that Elder Scrolls would be there, because we both heard they'd shown it off internally. So it's like, well, if they're showing it off internally, it must be coming up on being maybe even close to being ready, right? But it wasn't shown, so I'm guessing it was still too early. So I have no idea when it materialized, but hopefully it does for Bethesda's reputation what Starfield didn't. Starfield kind of like disappointed a lot of people. I enjoyed Starfield for what it was, but Starfield was like, you sit there and you play it and you do think this could have been way better than it was, it lacked the density of Skyrim, Fallout, all those other kind of games. And in the end, you just kind of left with a game that just feels like it didn't live up to its potential, especially if you're someone who doesn't want to get into like finding mods and all that kind of stuff. I feel like they were hoping mods would do a lot of the heavy lifting for the content gap there. But I ain't someone who wants to download loads of mods or track what the best mods are and stuff like that. I just want to have a complete product. Oh man. Dedicated Beer says, Jez, happy to see you live. I didn't know you went live. Dang it. Yeah, sorry, man. I posted on Patreon. Like, if you guys want updates on what's happening with me and Rand, Patreon, our Patreon for like updates and stuff, like it's free. So you can sign up and you get notifications on the Patreon app. So like it pops up like, you know, Rand is sick or whatever, and the podcast will be delayed and stuff like that. So and also we are running a 20% off Patreon thing at the moment, you know, so I don't know. You can check it out there if you want. But there's no pressure, you know. We do some extra shows there and we do weekly Q&As and all that kind of shit. Some other little perks random here and there. You know, if all this Xbox writing stuff goes belly up, I will be doubling down on Patreon, post some articles there probably, you know. So if you like my content, please check it out. Just James 93. Hey, dude. The £2 super chat. Do you think more Xbox backwards compatible games will come? It's a good question, man. I think Microsoft said at the time that they'd exhausted all the legal options for backwards compatible games. You know, it does seem like they went through and checked out as many of the high profile games as they could. Because remember, they had that whole user voice thing where user voice was like, they were using user voice to figure out what games people wanted. And I think they did get the vast majority of the games people wanted the most out of user voice. Are there any major outliers? Like, the one for me was always Max Payne 3. And Max Payne 1 and 2, but like, I was like, they're probably not going to be able to land Max Payne 3. I don't know why I thought that. I think I just assumed Rockstar wouldn't do it or something like that, but they ended up landing Max Payne 3 as well, which I was really excited about. Yeah, I don't know, man. But I don't think they'll open it back up, personally, but I could be wrong. I hope they do, but I don't think they will. RP Spaces says, Jez, why are people calling you a shill for debunking Xbox and misinformation? I don't know, man. I mean, people hate Xbox, and Microsoft have done it to themselves a fair bit, you know, being completely fair and honest. It's a whole thing where if you're a Microsoft and Xbox executives like to talk a lot. They like to be public. They like to engage. I don't know. Whereas like other companies like Nintendo, they never really talk about their business or anything like that. They're only ever talking about the games. So because Microsoft is so public, I think they get caught out a lot. Like, we never hear about Nintendo shutting down studios or laying people off and stuff like that because they don't really operate that way. Like, instead of like having studios, they have like business units, and like a business unit might close or be merged into another one, and you never really hear about it, stuff like that. Because they're very careful about making sure, like, when you are thinking about Nintendo, you're only thinking about the games. You're not thinking about anything to do with the business. Now, on the one hand, selfishly as a content creator, I like that Microsoft talks a lot because it gives me a lot to fucking write about. I'm sure like even the channels that really hate Xbox secretly love Microsoft for this as well. And they love all the rakes that Microsoft steps on, because if they didn't have all these rakes, what are they going to talk about? Valve never talks. PlayStation never talks. Nintendo never talks. You know, are they going to talk about games? I don't know about that. So like, selfishly as a content creator, as someone who like, I don't think when I write about games or talk about games, I don't think I do a good job. You know, I'm not an art critic. You know, I do review games, but I approach it very much from a technical perspective of like, is this value for money? Whereas like, you know, Gene Park, for example, he'll write all this stuff about the art and the, you know, the subtext and all this stuff that I just too dumb to think about, you know. So I try, and when I approach reviews, I'm very much like, is this gonna be fun for people? I'm not like doing art criticism, and I think there are very few channels that can do that really well. Like Gene Parks and one of them does it very well. ACG obviously, and Skill Up and people like that. And I think like for a lot of people who aren't like creative enough to be like an art critic, like myself, or like a lot of the, you know, the Xbox hate channels, they rely on Xbox for their content, you know. So But would it be better if Xbox just shut up sometimes? Maybe. I think Rand said it himself. I think Rand was like, Microsoft should talk less. Microsoft should talk less, because when plans do change, and plans do inevitably change, because that's how the linear progression of time works. Things change. Change is inevitable for everyone. But Microsoft has put themselves on record so much that it's very easy to point to. It's like Phase 2K said earlier. JEZ, you're on the record of saying that Xbox is going to drop the paywall for the next gen console, and if it doesn't happen, you're going to look bad now. And it's like, well, yeah, but today that's the plan. That's the facts. That's the plan today. And hopefully someone at Xbox will be like, yeah, that was the plan, but we changed the plans, to bail me out. But I don't mind sticking my neck out, man. But yeah, people love to hate Xbox. They've done it to themselves to some degree by talking too much and then doing things like shutting down studios. And honestly, I think a company as big as Microsoft should have the scrutiny. Microsoft's one of the most privileged companies in history. More millionaires have been made on the basis of Microsoft stock than any company in history, I think. So, like, when you consider some of this stuff, Microsoft deserves the scrutiny, because Microsoft has the power to be potentially a very corrupt entity if they wanted to be. So I think they deserve the scrutiny. But at the same time, the scrutiny kind of sucks for fans, right? Because we're the ones that get all the hate on social media. And, and if you're like a content creator of any stripe, if you have the audacity to defend Xbox or even say it's good, you will get hate immediately. If you go against the grain in any direction on social media on any issue, even if it's not gaming, you will get hate, restless hate. So it's very hard to go against what the algorithm demands, which I think fuels some of it. Not all of it, but some of it, And I don't know how you fix that. I don't know if you can fix that. And I don't know if you should fix that. Because like I said, Microsoft's a big ass company that deserves a scrutiny. I just think it sucks when we as customers are caught in the crossfire to some degree. But, it's a first world problem at the end of the day. It doesn't really matter. It's just gaming. Who cares? Yeah. It's just gaming. Let's see what else we got here. We've got just James. Totally agree. Cheers. The pony channels would be a loss without Xbox. Some of them will be, yeah. I mean, there are channels out there that like give a nuanced critique of Xbox, and you can have a discussion with them because they're reasonable. Like me and Colin Moriarty and Rand from Sacred Symbols, we've had like, nuanced discussions about the gaming industry, its direction, and Xbox and all, and like had like a good back and forth, But there are some channels which are just so blatantly on the rager hole, rage baiting both sides, whether it's like you're gonna rage bait PlayStation fans to get all mad, or rage bait Xbox fans to get all mad, and people make a lot of money doing that. And you know exactly the channels I'm talking about. No nuance, no honesty, pure grift. And you know exactly who I'm talking about. I don't need to name names. You know exactly what I'm talking about. But if you're still, I said this on Xbox before, if you're still on Xbox despite everything that's happened, you are someone who likes to go against the grain. Because, at this point with Xbox, it's like they have thrown every rule book out the window. They've ditched exclusives. They've done price hikes left, right, and center, and all the rest of it. They've been very visible about contradictions, And if you're someone who's still here after all that, you are not someone who's uncomfortable going against the grain, I think. But we shouldn't have to be going against the grain. Microsoft should do better, And I want Xbox to do better, and I will advocate for Xbox to fucking do better where applicable. But I'm also not going to be someone who just goes off rage baiting 24/7 and sort of builds an entire content platform on hating Xbox. I prefer the nuanced take where applicable. That's difficult, and it's stressful, and sometimes depressing. But like I said, first world problem, right? It's not a big deal. Didakbra says, Jez, you're saying we are gaming hipsters. We are gaming hipsters. Anyone who's an Xbox fan is a hipster right now. You know, but hipsters are cool, right, guys? I mean, I'm a super hipster, man. I got a vinyl record player. You know, I got a red flannel t-shirt. What else have I got? I listen to music no one's heard of. And I play Xbox. Like, I'm a hipster, man. I'm a hipster, bro. Nom Nom says, Thanos says you're live with this pre-recorded. This is live as of right now. It's not pre-recorded. Nom Nom says, Jez, will the new Xbox be like PC with BIOS and constant adjustments like consoles because it does it on its own? So if Microsoft does this properly, and I said this at the start of the show, Microsoft does it properly, it should be seamless. You will have the option to tweak if you want to, right? But with things like game profiles shipping soon, and also the fact that developers will know what the silicon is and what it does, they will hopefully ship games, hopefully doing a lot of heavy lifting here, hopefully ship games that work out of the box, you know. Microsoft released the Xbox Ally to test a lot of this shit. So game profiles are coming in the Xbox Ally soon, which means that games that you download on the Xbox PC store will already have the best settings for that device. In theory. But we'll check out how some of this works. I don't know when game profiles are shipping, but I think they're shipping pretty soon. So a lot of this shit is like a big question mark, but they've got years to solve some of this stuff. They've got years to solve it. It's not like the next Xbox is coming out in months. It's coming out in years. So I think it's a really good thing that they released the Xbox Ally now when they did, because now we've got the opportunity to test and give feedback on some of this stuff. And I just want to shout out, oh no, it's Alex actually, because I don't know if you guys saw, but oh no, it's Alex on YouTube is now a giant Xbox shill because Xbox sent him an Xbox Ally for free. I can't believe it, man. So yeah, oh no, it's Alex. He's now the biggest Xbox shill on earth, and he's going to clearly be offering his feedback up, you know, and glazing and grifting for Xbox, you know, just like me. I've heard that Alex's first check is actually cleared. You know, he's checked for glazing. Oh man. Elko says, bit weird selling $1,000 handheld to become a beta tester. I mean, yeah, kind of, but it's still a good experience. You know, it is like there are a lot of, I suppose, kinks to work out with regards to this shit, but it's functional. You know, I turn it on and I get into a game. That's kind of what I want from a console experience. I don't have to jump through any hoops. I don't have to tweak settings in the games that are optimized for it. Of course, like if you step outside that environment, that's when things start getting messy. If you do go over to Steam, things don't always work great, you know. But presumably, if you are someone who's going over to Steam to find some of this shit, you are someone who's like willing to accept the idiosyncrasies that come with PC gaming in general, you know. So like we can have a look here, you know, right now. I'll pull it up on the webcam so you can have a look. As soon as I've killed this Mana Stalker, which by the way, I just got a tattoo of this mob. I just got a tattoo of this guy. The guy I'm fighting right now, I just got a tattoo of him. Because I'm that much of a nerd. But alright, so let's get in stealth here and have a look at the Xbox Ally. Jax82 says, Jezzy's live breaking news. What is going on here? Am I breaking news? I don't know about that. Blue says, can they send me one for free? I don't know, man. Han Solo says, is Contraband dead? Is over. I think they announced Contraband's been cancelled, right? Unless I'm misremembering that. I'm pretty sure Contraband was cancelled, sadly. Yeah, I mean, I just turned it on, and then you press Ball X Pit, and you got to play like you do on an Xbox console today, and then you're straight into the game. You know, there's no extra jumping through hoops. Like, sometimes when you launch a game for the first time, it'll come up with pop-ups like it does on Steam, like a launcher or a user account control prompt or something like that. But these are the kind of things that like you would hope that they will fix over time as part of this beta test of the Xbox ecosystem. By the way, if you guys haven't played Ball Pit, you absolutely should. It's crack. It's video game crack. It's so good. And then you can just like multitask, you know, close the game out, start multitasking, and then, you know, it could load into another game. So it's in my library. Like I got shitloads of games installed here, and these are all Xbox Play Anywhere. So I got Doom, Final Fantasy Collection, Dredge, Dragon Quest 1 and 2, Final Fantasy 16. Final Fantasy 16 runs really well on this thing. I was really surprised. I didn't think Final Fantasy 16 would run well at all. And then like I've got stuff from other stores. So I've got Resident Evil and God Galaxy. We can play some classic Resident Evil on this thing, like you will be able to do on the next Xbox. I've also installed this game Bounty Star. I don't know if any of you guys have played this. It's on Game Pass. I wanted to check that out. Also, I've been playing this Blood West from New Blood Interactive. Blood West is fantastic. It's kind of like a PS1 graphics, Wild West zombie stalker kind of game. It's the strangest genre mashup I've ever seen, but it really works really well. But, you know, there's so many question marks there is. Like, if they are competing directly with Steam, you know, they're going to have to start doing like Steam sales that are as good as Steam, and they're going to have to do more to try and cultivate organic developer support, not just rely on like Xbox Series X ports and things like that. And there are some other issues. Like I've seen like a lot of Xbox Ally people complain about, because there's an Xbox Ally subreddit, right? I've seen a lot of Xbox Ally people complain that Ubisoft games don't work that well and EA games don't work that well out of Xbox Game Pass, you know, and I think that's an issue. Like, for example, Death Stranding is broken on the Xbox PC app. It's fully broken. The save system doesn't work on the Xbox Play Anywhere version of Death Stranding. It works on Xbox, but it doesn't work on Xbox PC. And all that stuff's a problem, you know, because I think developers feel like, oh, nobody's using this version, then we're not going to support it properly. And then we're just going to leave it with bugs and issues and all that kind of thing. But you would hope that, like, with the next Xbox, it being the upgrade path for Xbox Series X users, that Microsoft would make sure that it has proper developer support going in. But, you know, you got to concede that the Z2 platform is extremely niche, and some games just aren't optimized for it. Like, it's really weird how I can run Ghost of Tsushima runs flawlessly on that thing. God of War runs flawlessly on that thing. But like Silent Hill 2 Remake runs like absolute garbage. And it's like, why this should run, right? This should run. And it's just like a lot of games just don't run well on the Z2 Extreme for no particular reason, for no discernible reason. Jergogo says, are existing ROG devices getting a new Ally operating system? Yes, they are. It's not just it's not an operating system. It's literally just new Windows features. So right now, people who've got an Xbox Ally are in a specific branch of the Windows Store update. So they kind of like they get a special version of Windows which has like the full screen experience and the Xbox app enhancements and all that kind of stuff, and the new the multitask switcher system. So they get all that shit. But the ROG Ally, the previous ROG Ally, they will get it first. I think they should get it soon. You can even force the update using a GitHub thing. I've seen some people do, and some registry keys. But if you don't want to mess around doing that, I think we have a guide on how to do it on Windows Central if you want to force the update. But if you don't want to force the update, there is like, it is coming to Windows Update pretty soon, like early 2026, I think they've said, but it could end up being sooner than that because it does work. Like if you force the update, it works fine. So I don't know why they wouldn't just release it now. Maybe there's some like critical issues or something that people haven't discovered or something. I don't know, but it works right now. So yeah, it'll come to that first. And then it'll come to Lenovo Legion Go and other Windows devices next year. Just James says, hey Jez, have you finished any FF Pixel games? Yeah, so last Christmas, I went through an FF Pixel Remaster Marathon. I completed FF1, 2, and 3, and I've just started 4. But I blitzed those 3 games in the space of 2 weeks, entirely on Xbox Cloud Gaming. So I'm kind of like, I got myself a little bit burned out on Final Fantasy Pixel Remaster because I just went so hard on it, right, unnecessarily. But I'll come back to it eventually. I really want to play Octopath Traveler though. So like, I kind of feel like if I'm gonna play another one of those kind of games, the next one will be Octopath Traveler. Because we got Octopath Traveler 2 now on there as well, and then Octopath Traveler 0 is coming out soonish, I think. But I also got like Dragon Quest 1 and 2 to play, and Dragon Quest 3 Remake. And I want to play those as well. There's too many fucking games, bro. There's too many games. There's too many games. Lau says Sonic 2 has ray tracing on by default. That is correct. So Sonic 2 does have ray tracing on by default, but if you turn it off, you don't get any lighting at all. And it ruins the game, at least on the Z2 Extreme. If you turn the ray tracing off, you don't get any lighting. And it's kind of like, if you want Silent Hill 2, you kind of want to have lighting, right? But it's like I said earlier, like, horror games, I think, are best played on a bigger screen. I don't find it very immersive to play on a handheld. Certainly not scary to play on a handheld. So, yeah, I'll probably just either wait for the Xbox version or just give in and play it on my PC, because I do have it on Steam. I just want my Xbox achievements, man. So JEZ, do Steam games update on background automatically, or do you have to upload those manually when you launch the game? Are you talking about Steam games in general, or do you mean on the Xbox Allies specifically? So like, if you mean on like a Windows PC, the way I've got Steam set up is that the games won't update automatically, but it will come up with like, you have updates waiting. I think you can set it to update the games automatically, but I like to choose which games I update, because some of them it's like, I ain't got any intention of playing this soon, so I'll just leave it sitting there. Man, is this quest bugged? Disgusting but useful. Fell surge spider eggs collected. So why isn't this working? Do I just have to keep checking these egg sacs? See, this might be a good time to try a gaming co-pilot, actually. Let's ask Gaming Copilot how to do this quest for funsies. So, can you see this on stream? No, this isn't coming up on the stream, but I'm opening Gaming Copilot now. Let's ask Gaming Copilot. So, what is this quest called? Disgusting but useful. Copilot.
Hey, Jez. So what's happening in the world of WoW today?
Hey, Copilot. Your audio's a bit messed up, but is the quest disgusting but useful bugged on World of Warcraft? Okay, so I don't think Gaming Copilot works when I'm streaming because the microphone has been taken over, right? Sorry about that. Let's try again. Let's just ask her. Is the quest disgusting but useful bugged on World of Warcraft? Question mark. What? It's not officially flagged as bugged, but players have reported occasional issues with the quest disgusting but useful in World of Warcraft, especially around item drops and NPC interactions. If Nightwatcher Idri isn't responding or the entrails aren't dropping as expected, here's what you can try. There's nothing to do with Nightwatcher Idri in this quest. What is she talking about, Nightwatcher Idri? This quest is about Fell Surge spider eggs. This is about Fell Surge spider eggs. I don't know what you're on about with Night Watcher Idri, mate. You're absolutely right, Jez. My bad on the curveball. The quest is supposed to be useless and all about collecting Fell Surge spider eggs, not chatting off Watcher Idri like I suggested. You need to gather 10 spider eggs. The eggs can be triggered to spot. Yeah. Some players report the eggs don't always spawn. Try switching shards by grouping with a friend or using the group finder. If the eggs aren't spawning, a quick relog. Okay. So we got there in the end. I've noticed this with ChatGPT 5, right? Because that's powered by ChatGPT 5, right? It'll just give you some bullshit, and then you call out the bullshit, and then it'll be like, "Oh yeah, you're right. I was lying. Here's the real answer." Why doesn't it just give me the real answer the first fucking time? I mean, I was pretty specific. I gave the exact quest name, and he didn't know what the hell I was talking about, man. See, this is just like AI is so cooked, man. It's so dumb. It's so dumb, and it just doesn't work. It does not work, man. Like, I couldn't use it for work even if I wanted to, because it introduces so much bullshit when you ask it specific things. Like, the way I found AI to be most useful, right, is if I'm making a spec table for an article. So if I'm making a spec table for an article, I'll be like, okay, Copilot, take all this information and turn it into a HTML table that I can copy and paste into an article. So, and then it'll have my information that I know is correct, and it will give me the HTML, which I'm too lazy to code myself. And then I can just copy and paste it. That is the literal only use I've had for it so far. Everything else is just memes. You know, it's pretty good for memes, but what else is it good for? Have you guys found a genuinely good use for AI yet? I haven't found a genuinely good use for it yet. You know, that, okay, so here we go. Copilot could have told me that Fell Surge spider eggs also drop from the Fell Surge brood mother, not just the Fell Surge eggs, which seem to be bugged. So if I loot these eggs here, they don't drop anything. And I swear to God, I remember this being bugged the last time I tried to do it about 8 years ago. So that bug is still not been fixed. But Copilot could have told me that there are mobs which drop the eggs, those brood mother chicks. But Copilot didn't know, because Copilot is rubbish, unfortunately. But yeah, sorry about the horrible noise there. But I found this sometimes when I'm streaming, like the rest of my audio on my PC will be fucked up. You know, I don't know why that is. Like, am I overloading the sound card or something? I don't know. Do sound cards even still exist? I don't think they do. We're going back to the 90s here, guys. Anyway. So let's have a look at some more super chats. We've got Web Dave with the 2. Thank you very much. Are you and Rand going to LA June SGF? Hit the like. I don't know yet. I don't know. Maybe. It's very expensive to get there. And you know, my company has a travel freeze right now. Like, I paid for myself to go to Gamescom this year, and I'm still paying off the credit card debt for it. And because my company wouldn't pay for me to go, and I was like, I feel like I've really got to go to this, because this is like, they're showing off the ROG Ally, and this is going to be a huge coverage area for us. So I'm going to pay for myself to go, like the old days. Yeah, I'm still paying off the debt from that. And that's in Europe. So like, if I have to pay for myself to go to Summer Game Fest, it's kind of like beyond where I can reasonably afford. Especially if I decide to go to BlizzCon, which is going to cost an arm and a leg. But BlizzCon's BlizzCon, and I want to go there at least once. I've already done Summer Game Fest a lot of times, so maybe we prioritize BlizzCon in that universe. But we'll see, man. And I've also got PTSD of trying to kickstart something like that. Like when I was starting out in the Xbox ecosystem, I kickstarted. I started a Kickstarter, like, you know, many other people do, like Xbox Era has done Kickstarter for events and stuff. I started a Kickstarter to go to Gamescom. And you know, I only had like a few thousand followers at the time, you know, small fry and stuff like that. I was running my own blog. And there was some uproar on Twitter where it was like, oh my god, you want people to pay for you to have a vacation and stuff. And I felt so guilty about that I ended up canceling the Kickstarter, even though it got funded. I cancelled the Kickstarter, and then I slept on an airport bench instead of getting a hotel because I couldn't afford one. So now I've got PTSD of doing Kickstarters for that kind of thing. So we pay for ourselves, even if we sleep on the airport bench. That was probably the worst night's sleep I've ever had in my life. RP Space said, Jez, rumor is Google Gemini 3 is going to be really good at coding games. Thoughts? Yeah, Google's been killing it with the AI models, man. Like, there was a point in time where people were like, oh, Google screwed because they're so far behind with the AI stuff. But people forget, like, Google Gemini, like, was at the cutting edge of a lot of this shit. Like, Google Gemini was originally a British company, I think. And Google acquired it. I can't remember the name of the company, but it's like the Cambridge and Oxford researchers into AI, like who started all this shit, who started large language models and that whole kind of universe. So like they have some really, really genuinely great science at Google with regards to them and shit. So I wouldn't be surprised if Google Gemini is really good at coding games, the next version or the future version and stuff like that. But I suppose it depends. Do people actually want that shit? Because, you know, there's still a huge amount of pushback when it comes to anything AI related. Like there was the whole report that, you know, Halo was going to use generative AI, and then Halo came back and were like, yeah, I mean, we're using it for like generative fill, like Photoshop has generative fill, for example, but it's really like a human led kind of game. Like I think like when I debunked some of those more wild rumors about AI, I think I used the generative AI example because that's what the source told me. It's like, you know, this is a human made game, but you know, there are tools like generative fill or like, you know, deleting an object from a background and stuff like that using AI, which we might use. But those like algorithmic kind of tools in Photoshop have existed way before large language models existed, you know, and nobody really thought about it as AI back then. So, you know, will people want a game that is proudly AI first? I don't know. I don't know if you guys saw this like AI generated game that went viral on Twitter recently where it was just this horrible sort of AI slop tactics thing. Some like SWAT team running around like an urban setting, and it just looked awful. But you have to presume that this shit will only get better, potentially. But what a lot of people don't talk about right now with regards to AI is the bottleneck, the vast bottleneck, which is electricity. So for AI is going to either require more electricity, or it's going to have to figure out a way to get more efficient. Which is where a lot of Microsoft's research is actually. So like Microsoft has its own AI models. I can't remember off the top of my head what they're called, but they begin with an M, I think. And they're focused entirely on efficiency. Those are models that are like, we want to have smart models that also use less electricity, because if we're going to scale this shit up, we don't want to be looking at building nuclear reactors for this kind of shit, right? Although a lot of them are looking at building nuclear reactors for this shit. But like when we start talking about graphics processing, instead of just writing a shitty blog post or writing a tweet or something, that's going to exponentially require even more electricity and even more silicon and all that kind of shit, right? In theory. So like, where does this all end up? You know, either it gets more efficient, or we have to eliminate the electricity bottleneck and develop nuclear fusion, infinite energy technology or something like that. Because we've already seen the limits of this technology with today's infrastructure. Like GPT-5 was such a disappointment for a lot of people. There was so much hype about this. People were saying it was going to be AGI, it was going to be artificial general intelligence, like true AI, like the fucking Matrix. And then GPT-5 came out, and it was just the same sycophantic bullshit that it always was. You know. So it is what it is. Baby boy Ray with the 2, thank you so much. Will the next Xbox be able to use PC peripherals? Yes, it will. So anything that you can plug into your PC today will run on the next Xbox. Like, there's things that I'm still not sure of. Will it have Bluetooth? Presumably, it will have Bluetooth, because a lot of those sort of, you know, sort of pre-built computers, which is what this is going to be. It's going to be essentially a pre-built box, like an NUC kind of thing. NUC by AMD. They all have Bluetooth, you know. But certainly USB peripherals. Like anything you can plug into an Xbox Ally, essentially, is going to be compatible with this shit. So, you know, I've got a keyboard for my Xbox Ally. Like I use this folding travel keyboard for my Xbox Ally. So when I'm a Legion Go. So like when I've been on vacation before, I used to type my Surface Pro X, because I got a Surface Pro X, which is it's an AMD based, no, an ARM based Surface. So like I was thinking like this would be good for battery life and all that kind of stuff, but the performance is so awful on it. It's terrible performance. One day I was just like, hang on a sec. I've got something way more powerful than this. Why don't I just use that? And the thing that was more powerful is the Lenovo Legion Go. Way more powerful than my ARM-based Surface Pro. All I needed was a keyboard for it, because it already had a kickstand. So I bought this keyboard, and it's like, oh, this is like literally a PC now. And I literally was just using that as my laptop for when I was like doing a bit of work on vacation and stuff. I took it to Hawaii for that purpose. I didn't really play any games on it, but I did do a bunch of work when I was like on my last vacation. So yeah, you can plug anything into it in theory. I don't see why you wouldn't be able to. But I suppose, you know, there are some questions, you know, because the openness of PC comes with the openness of hacks and security issues and that kind of thing. So like obviously PC gaming is more susceptible to attacks than your typical console is, right? Console being fully locked down means you don't really get access to the, you know, the metal unless you're a developer, you know. So like this is why Microsoft encourages you to use memory isolation on the Xbox Ally, because it prevents a lot of that shit from happening. However, memory isolation comes with a performance tax. So some PC gamers don't like to turn it on, which is understandable. You can turn it off if you want to, but it also comes with the security issues, as I mentioned. How's the next Xbox going to handle some of this? This is like kind of like the questions that, you know, when Microsoft starts going more public with some of this stuff, these are the questions that I suppose all the journalists and myself will be asking them first. Is like, how are you going to deal with cheating? How are you going to deal with, you know, cross-platform competitiveness? You know, because it's only just been recently where companies have been able to detect Kronos keyboards and stuff like that reliably, and start removing them from the console pool on games like Call of Duty and Battlefield and shit like that, right? So like the way like Overwatch and Battlefield and Call of Duty try to handle it is they try to group you by what peripheral you're using. So if I'm playing like Call of Duty on my PC with a controller, it tries to detect that, okay, this person's a controller player on PC. We'll put him in the console pool with the other controller players to make it fair for everyone, right? That's the theory. I don't know how well it works in practice. Sometimes I'll get on Overwatch, or, you know, I'll get on Call of Duty on Xbox, and you'll see dudes who are like they're just clearly with a mouse, whether they're using a Kronos keyboard or somehow they've got into the console pool using the PC and stuff like that, you know. It depends like how much of a big deal you think it is, I suppose. But the Steam Deck's going to have this issue too. Well, the Steam Deck's going to have an even bigger issue because, you know, with the Steam Deck, you don't have kernel level anti-cheat at all. At least mostly, I think. I mean, presumably Valve will solve that eventually, but, you know, These are all like issues that I suppose Microsoft and other companies are going to have to solve in this brave new universe. You know, it's kind of fun to think about. I like this shit. I like not knowing stuff. So like we get to learn it together. You know, via hopefully my exclusive leaks, which you all click on and share. Thank you very much. Hans Siler says, "Is Jez still with Windows Central?" Yes, I am still with Windows Central. I don't like. I'm still with Windows Central, but I've kind of stepped back a little bit from the managerial kind of stuff because I'm really terrible at managing things because I'm got no sleep cycle and I'm awake at weird times and I can't make meetings on time and I'm a mess basically. So I've stepped back from managing things and Rebecca Spear now runs the hard stuff. I'm just kind of like doing my own thing again, which is like what I was doing before. So we're still with Windows Central. We're still rocking there. And we're still trying to survive in a world dominated by AI, but we'll see how that goes, right? So I'm far more worried about how AI is going to blow up Windows Central than how Xbox is going to fold. I think Xbox will vastly outlive Windows Central in the post-AI apocalypse. I think I read somewhere recently that 50% of all web content is generated by AI now. So, and you've got like Gen Alpha and Gen Beta growing up in a world where AI content is normal. They ain't gonna really care if it's AI or human made, presumably. So unless something big changes, I don't see a future in publishing. But we had a good run, didn't we, guys? We had a good run. I didn't expect to last a few years in this business, man. I've been here for 12 years covering gaming now. 12 years in total, 10 years professionally, and about 8 years full time. I was freelancer at Windows Central for a couple of years, and then I got hired full time. It's weird. It's crazy been doing this for so long. Me and Rand have been podcasting for 8 years. I didn't expect any of this to last that long. I'm from a working class background, and I got no qualifications. I'd resigned myself to a life of my parents did. My parents worked in factories and minimum wage jobs. Like I was fully expecting that was going to be my lifestyle because in my town where I'm from, that's most people. The north of England is like it's not okay. It's not like London. It's not like how like England's depicted on TV. Like the north of England and like some other places, like poverty stricken, man. There's like no jobs. There's no good jobs. And everyone's kind of struggling. So I've been extremely lucky. And this is one of the reasons why I'm so passionate about the Xbox community and trying to deliver for the Xbox community, because the Xbox community is giving me so fucking much, man. Maybe if I'd gone to uni and studied journalism and, done it in a more normal way, like I'd treat all this stuff differently. But I genuinely feel so grateful to all of you guys and just the community and all the people I've met here and everyone that's ever helped me, like Rand and everyone on Windows Central who supported me and supported the site and worked really hard for frankly low pay. Those guys all deserve to be paid more. And, all the game devs that have given me 5 minutes of their time, it's fucking humbling, man. And all you guys watching this right now, it's fucking humbling, man. So that's like, and people talk about my bias and shit like that. That is my bias. That's where my bias ultimately lies, is that I'm grateful for the opportunity I've been given. And if it all ends tomorrow, like I won't have any regrets. I'll miss it, but it's not like I'll cling on to it for dear life. Like I'd already prepared myself for a life doing something else. I never wanted any of this. I never imagined I could ever have anything like this. So anything that's happened from then till now is just what I've seen as a bonus. And I feel just so grateful, man. So damn grateful. I'm sorry I just went off on a tangent there. Fucking emo shit. What else we got here? What about VR peripherals, Illegal Dad says? That is a good question. I would presume that VR peripherals would work as well. You know, if you plug in a MetaQuest on Windows, it works. So I don't see why it wouldn't work either. It's gonna have full Windows update. It's gonna have any driver that you can pull down from Windows Update or like install sideways from a company like Meta or whoever. They should just work. It's not going to be locked down in any way. It's going to front load the Xbox experience, but it's not going to be locked down. It's going to be a PC, man. It's going to be a PC, bro. Hey, it's Colt Eastwood, baby. How you doing, Colt? How's it going, man? I saw Colt putting out a PlayStation video today, man. Colt's on his heel run. Heel turn. That's funny, man. Frank F says, Jez, how will gaming AI hit Windows Central guide footfall? Dude, guide footfall is gone. If you notice, like on Windows Central, like I do guides occasionally, but it's like you almost do guides as a news post now. Back in the day, you'd write a guide and they would get traffic every day for months. Like I remember when Resident Evil 7 came out, I had the review code, I think. So I did the review, but I also I was writing guides as I was playing it. So I wrote like a dozen guides for Resident Evil 7. And they did so much traffic that year. Constant traffic all the time. Resident Evil boss guide, where to find this, puzzle piece, how to do this puzzle, all that kind of stuff. And I really love doing guides because it's like you feel like you're genuinely helping people. If someone searched into Google, is this a thing or how do I do this? And your article comes up and they read it and it helps them. It's like instant gratification, right? It's like, oh wow, this really helps someone. But yeah, AI is like for written guides, AI is completely wiped it out. The entire business is wiped out. Which begs the question, right? If nobody can make money writing guides, where's AI going to get its information from? Because, like, sure, right now it can get information from the sites that are still writing guides, but increasingly so. Why would I want to write a guide that Copilot's just going to steal and give me nothing back for, Not even a backlink. Nobody clicks the links on AI. But at the same time, I think, like, the web kind of did this to itself because one of the benefits of AI is that you get this sort of consistent interface. There's no ads on it. It looks clean and it gives, in theory anyway, it gives you exactly what you want. I mean, as you just saw from me trying to use Gaming Copilot to get information on this quest, doesn't always bloody work that way. But, in theory, it should work, right? But clearly, nobody's written a guide about this quest being bugged, which means Copilot didn't really have any information to draw down about it. Now, if I wrote a guide based on the issue that I had in World of Warcraft earlier, so if you can't find the spider eggs, just kill the spider brood mothers, right? If I wrote a guide on that, Copilot would steal that information and put it into Gaming Copilot. It didn't have that information to steal, so it gave me a dumb answer. Why would I write that now to help Microsoft's bullshit AI? Why would I bother doing that? It's just it's a broken business model. Microsoft and OpenAI and Google and stuff, when they're sort of like they're stealing the information as soon as you've written it, it disincentivizes writing quality information. So something will have to change in order to fix that cycle, or it's just not going to work. I mean, you'd think, right? I don't know, man. Right, we've got more super chats. Let's get some of these. We've got Die Hard Eddie Edwards with a 10. Thank you so much, dude. The worst part of the Xbox on PC experience right now is how dog shit the Xbox app is. So much worse than the console UI or even the Steam Big Picture mode. Yes, that is true. There are a lot of issues with the Xbox PC app. And actually, I was planning on writing an article this week, which is going to be titled something like 100 Things Wrong with the Xbox PC app. It's not great. There's a lot of games that don't work on it. Especially when it's like in full screen mode. Sometimes a launcher will pop up that doesn't work with touch, and it doesn't work with the gamepad. And then there's also lots of just weird little things, like Windows Phone games still show up in my library. Like, I bitched about this on Twitter. I bitched about it in an article. Why am I getting Windows Phone games which don't even function? Why am I getting them in my Xbox library? I shouldn't be getting Windows Phone games in my library. I don't know if I've got a unique bug on my account which is making this happen, but I feel like that shouldn't happen, right? There's also a lot of weird idiosyncrasies, like, how does offline mode work on these devices? Because you can only have one offline PC at a time, right? And I want to have a PC that's offline and a gaming device that's offline. Right now, I've got my ROG Ally X set to offline mode. But that means if I lose the internet, I'm going to lose access to my PC, which is not ideal. Or at least, like, I'm going to lose access to anything on the Microsoft Store on my PC. So, I don't lose access to my entire PC, but I lose access, to the Microsoft Store on my PC, because it'd be like, oh, you're in offline mode, go online so we can do the DRM bullshit. So how is Microsoft going to handle some of that stuff? Because I've already spoke to Microsoft about that. I spoke to them about it at the Gamescom, because I was like, this is going to be an issue, man. The fact that, like, people are going to have to choose between whether their laptop's offline or whether their handheld's offline. I don't think that's a choice a lot of people will want to make. So there is a lot of weird shit like that to work out. But like I said, they've got 2 years, and I've called on Microsoft to bring back the user voice page. So if they bring back user voice, maybe we can start having a proper dialogue about the things that need to be fixed. Rather than just leave it on a wing and a prayer. But, we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. Now, see, this is another quest that I could use Copilot for, because it's saying, like, dimensional anchors destroyed. How the fuck do I do that? Is that it over there? So I fly over here. Is that a dimensional anchor? Where's a dimensional anchor? Oh no, that's something else entirely. It's not easy being a Warcraft player, man. It's not easy, bro. You have to find all this shit, and Gaming Copilot doesn't know how to do any of the quests, and, like, how can you survive in this Warcraftian world where all these world quests don't give me the information that I need? So where are we next? Let's have a look here. We've got some more questions. If you guys enjoying the show, smash the like button, by the way. Would appreciate it. Xbox says, Boom said JEZ leaked that the new Xbox will not have internet paywall. Does anyone know if this is true? Yeah, I wrote it on Windows Central today. So the current plan for the next Xbox, is that there won't be a paywall for Xbox Live Online. Whether this pans out in practice remains to be seen. But, I put my neck on the line, so we'll see what happens. Roll the dice, baby. But that is the current plan, Amy Hood might decide she wants a new yacht, so then maybe they'll cancel that plan. But the current plan is for that to have no paywall. But I think it's going to be like a monkey paw scenario, right? Because I think, like, this is my speculation, right? This is my speculation. I think what could end up happening is they drop the paywall for multiplayer, but they also drop day one games for PC Game Pass. And then they move to a model where instead of... Oh, there's a staircase here. Oh, that's what I was missing. I'm a dumbass. I've literally been running around that area looking for these anchors for like half an hour, not paying attention. And there's a staircase right there. Gaming Copilot could have helped me with that if he wasn't such a dumb shit. But it's dumb as hell, so I didn't know. But yeah, so I think what could end up happening is we lose day one games on PC Game Pass, and that PC Game Pass gets fully depreciated and removed, and we end up with just Game Pass Ultimate, Game Pass Standard, Game Pass Premium, Because if you notice, Game Pass Standard and Game Pass Premium, they have PC games in there now. And I think that's a hint that PC Game Pass is probably going to go away eventually. But I don't know. Because in a universe where there is no longer really a need to have a per device Game Pass structure, that might end up being what happens. But I don't know yet. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see and find out together, friends. We'll have to wait and see. Oh my God. Juan with the 10 gift memberships. Thank you so much, dude. That's awesome, man. So Riffs a lot says, Jez, why is Rand not here? What did you do to him? Rand's got the flu, man. But he did just get a gifted sub. So I think Rand is lurking somewhere, man. I think Rand's lurking around. Rand, are you lurking, buddy? Because Rand just got a gifted membership, which means he might be lurking around here, man. Interesting. What else we got here? Yeah, exposed, man. Rand got exposed. John R. Jackson III says, Jez, you should do more of these personal live streams. I love the Xbox 2 podcast, remember. I think you should both do personal streams now and then. Salute. Yeah, man. I really want to. I enjoy it. I do enjoy it. But it's just sometimes it's just hard to fit in. It's like I said earlier, I was prepared to podcast today. I'd mentally prepared myself, and I'd also prepared the stream and, you know, got all my shit set up and all that kind of thing. So I was ready to go. I was ready to rock, right? So it was easy today. I'd made the time for it. But a lot of the times I'm just like, after work, I'm just so damn tired, man. And also I'm feeling pretty good today. Some of you might know I've been dealing with a sinus infection the last month. I've had a sinus infection for the last month. But I actually got my sinuses drained this morning and my ears drained, which was not pleasant experience. It was pretty fucking slimy, to be honest. Slimiest experience of my life. It's a bit like, I don't know, beef noodles coming out of my ears. It was strange, bro. But on the plus side, I do feel my headache feels a lot better than it's done in a long time. And some of the doctor was like, yeah, so it might still feel sore for a while, and there is a chance that it could get reinfected because we just flushed a lot of water through your head. But hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll be back to normal capacity now. One of the yeah, so maybe we do more of these things. You know, I appreciate you guys, and it's really awesome. Like when I announced earlier that me and Rand weren't going to be able to do a show because Rand was sick. Rand's got the flu. Some people were like, "Oh, Jay, you should do a solo show," and I was like, "Yeah, you know what? I'm gonna do a solo show. I never really do these." Honestly, like back in the day, I used to be like too nervous to do this kind of thing. I just think like nobody wants to listen to this shit, and I'd use a lot of ums and ers and like stammer and stutter and not know what to say, and just, you know, I need someone to talk to riff on, to bounce off of, and I do like doing that, and I do think that makes for a more entertaining show when you're having a discussion back and forth like with Ram. But over the years, I think I have gotten a little bit more confident on the mic. Like if you go and like watch some of my YouTube videos on Windows Central Gaming channel, a lot of that stuff's unscripted. Because I was always so impressed how Rand never scripts his videos. Rand just freestyles that shit straight into the mic with some notes maybe. And I'm sitting there like, how the fuck do you do that? How do you do that without a script? And then you're like, listen to some of my YouTube videos and they're like fully scripted, and you can tell they're fully scripted because I'm not great at reading a script. But some of the other videos I've done are like, I've started to unscript them now and get practice at that and just sort of free flowing, freestyling. getting my thoughts out while also hopefully being at least vaguely engaging. So I'll try and do more of this shit, man. I do miss Rand's videos though. Rand hasn't really been on the content creation trend for a while now. I miss that shit. Rand videos were lit. Roberto Mark says, Jez, what we do since Phil killed Xbox? I don't know, man. I think we'll survive. You know, Xbox is not going anywhere yet. But, you know, honestly, if Xbox died tomorrow, like, fine, man. I'll just go back to being an IT technician. I'll fade out into obscurity, and you'll never hear from me again. Nah, but I'm like, even if Xbox died tomorrow, I'm sure me and Rand will keep doing the podcast. I mean, it obviously wouldn't be about Xbox. It'd be about, like, I suppose I'd go like pod PC gaming. You know, I'm playing a PC game right now. I'd go harder into PC gaming. I'm sure Rand will go PlayStation, Nintendo, because, you know, Rand doesn't like PC gaming at all, which, you know, is fair enough. So I'm sure, like, the content would change. Would I stay in games media? I don't know, man. I mean, Windows Central is already a tech site, and a lot of you guys might not know this, but I actually cover things not gaming related sometimes. My biggest 2 articles of this year, one's about headphones and one's about artificial intelligence and nothing to do with gaming. In fact, my biggest article of this year was to do with AI. So maybe I just go join the tech beat, you know, and do more tech coverage and stop using, you know, the gaming shit so much. I cover Xbox because I like Xbox and I like the Xbox community. But if it was gone tomorrow, like, I would survive, unlike a lot of these YouTubers who really do rely on Xbox for their content. You know, it's funny, man. It's fun, man. It's all fun. Jason Schreier on Blue Sky. Big layoffs hitting Amazon as soon as tomorrow, including within the video game division. Yeah, that's a shame. I mean, New World Eternum. And then if any of you guys have played New World, but like, I've New World should be my kind of game, right? It's an MMO. I've tried to get into that game multiple times, and it is just awful. Like, not to sort of mince words, it's a terrible game, you know. And it's part of it is like you compare it to World of Warcraft, but this is kind of like, this is the measuring stick you're going up against. If your combat does not feel as responsive or as interesting or as, you know, varied as World of Warcraft, you kind of like, you're not going to have a chance with that market, I think, unless you do something wildly different. So like, I think Final Fantasy 14 succeeds because, you know, it's the anime World of Warcraft. It's the Final Fantasy World of Warcraft, you know. And yeah, the combat is not as responsive. And I think like Square Enix is having some issues with its live ops, like getting the content out fast enough. Like, World of Warcraft's been on a tear, man. Like, World of Warcraft shared a roadmap last year for all the content updates. They've nailed pretty much all of them. Like, back in the day, you'd be waiting, like, there'd be content droughts in WoW back of the day, you know? Like, you'd be waiting for content for ages and not seeing anything. But that's not really what it's like these days. Like, the content flows. Like, as soon as the season's over, there's something else to do, like Legion Remix and stuff like that. I'm playing Legion Remix right now. It's like it's recycled old content, sure, but it's like, you know, it's something to do. Whereas Final Fantasy is going through this cycle, but New World Eternum from Amazon, they pumped so much money into that game, so much money and so much time, and they've just not seen any returns from it whatsoever. So it's not surprising that, like, that's probably where some of the cuts are going to fall. And it sucks and it's a shame. But it just also goes to show, like, how gaming can be tough, you know. I think when even like the big players like Netflix, Amazon, and Google try and fail at gaming, it just goes to show how difficult it is to really get started in this stuff. Like, even Microsoft, like, they tried to build a studio from the ground up with the initiative, and they completely failed. Like, it's really hard, man, to get like a huge team of dozens of artists, developers, and all that kind of stuff working on the same project collaboratively. Also, you know, threading the needle of a game that people actually want while also still being profitable, and all that kind of shit. Like it's tough, man. You know, it really sucks though. Like layoffs are never fun. Like even when it's like a company like Amazon. And I've met people from the New World team. Like I played the New World expansion at Summer Game Fest last year, and I really wanted to give it a chance. You know, because there's people who work on that team that I really like, and I was just like, man, this is it's so hard. I can't, I can't even come close to being able to glaze in this because it's just like it's not it, man. And I'm dead. I'm dead. Shit. Um, the Jestrom says, Jez, did you play Star Wars Galaxies back in the day? I didn't, man. I never played Star Wars Galaxies, but I know someone who did, and he absolutely loved it. And he used to talk about how good it was all the time. Like it was just sort of like this sort of chaotic kind of game. Wasn't there sort of like a major event kind of drama thing that happened in that game? Like some of like the EVE Online stuff where it's just like player led wars and shit like that. Like World of Warcraft used to be like that. Like World of Warcraft's very structured and curated these days. And like the kind of chaos we used to see in Warcraft, like the player wars and the blood plague that killed everyone. Like you don't really see that kind of shit anymore in WoW, and it's a shame. Oh fuck's sake, man! You actually need like a proper team to kill this thing. I think. I'm just gonna lie there dead until he completes the quest. But now I'm gonna play Star Wars Galaxies. I did play Final Fantasy 11 though. Final Fantasy 11 before World of Warcraft came out. That game gave me PTSD, man. Final Fantasy 11 is probably the hardest game I've ever played. It was so hard. It was so brutal, and it was so unfair. When you died in that game, you lost 10% of your level, and you could level down. Now, like when I played Final Fantasy 11, there was no European servers, so I imported Final Fantasy 11 from Japan initially, and then played on the American servers. I was so like, because I'm a huge Final Fantasy fanboy as well. You know, I got my Tombury tattoo. I don't know if you guys have seen that. My Tombury, right? So like a huge Final Fantasy fan. So I imported Final Fantasy 11 from Japan and then played on the American servers with the Japanese version. And the only time I could ever get in a group was like at 4 a.m. Now at the time I was like 16, I think, something like that, 16, 17, maybe less, maybe 15, I don't know. So like I had school, but I was desperately trying to play this game because you can only play that game in a group. You couldn't solo in Final Fantasy 11 after like level 10 or 12 or something like that. It was like impossible to solo. So you had to get a group. So like I was staying up like all hours of the night, and I was going to school with like practically brain dead, more so than usual, because I'd had no sleep. And like you'd wait for hours to get in a group, and then you get killed because of someone else playing badly, and then you'd level down and you'd lose your level, and it's like I just spent 4 hours trying to play this game and made negative progress. I've never played a game like that where it's like if you fuck up, you will be punished so hard that you will have negative progress. It was crazy, man. I mean, like even in like Dark Souls and shit, at least like you unlock shortcuts or unlock new bonfires and stuff like that. Final Fantasy 11 was just like, fuck you, level down, bitch. Cry about it. It was brutal, man. Whoever made that game was like full on masochist or like, well, sadist, I suppose. Oh, Jez, you missed super chat from Yuan. Sorry about that, buddy. Let's scroll up. I'm gonna get some of these now. I really need a better system for tracking super chats, man. Juan, with DOP 500. Thank you so much for that, dude. I just bought my first handheld, the Steam Deck OLED. I'm loving it. I'm playing more than I did just on my Xbox. I'll probably upgrade when Xbox launches their own handheld in a couple of years. Yeah, so this was the thing for me, like with handhelds. Like I've got a Steam Deck as well. I bought Steam Deck when they first came out because I've always liked the idea of handheld gaming. I had a Nintendo Switch, but Nintendo Switch is like it's quite compromised in terms of power, and it's really only for Nintendo games. You know, a lot of third-party games are either like they're very very limited, and the AAA games that launch on there were just very, very poor. So Nintendo Switch wasn't for me. So like when the Steam Deck came out, it was like, oh yeah, this could be cool. And I know there were other PC gaming handhelds up to that point using some of the AMD chips. Like I had a GPD Win 1, I think. There was a little clamshell gaming handheld. That was weird, but also, very not powerful as well. But I had a Steam Deck, but I also found that I came up against some of the same issues as I did with the Switch, where it was like a lot of the games that I wanted to play wouldn't run very well. Um, you know, because like it's a very lightweight kind of system, right? So I did feel like it was compromised a little bit. So that's when the Z2 Extreme came out, or the Z1 Extreme, sorry. Like I was really excited about that because it's like, oh wow, now I can actually play games that I might want to play. Like stuff like, they'll run better or run with fewer compromises. Obviously Z1 still has some compromises, but not as much as the Steam Deck. But then the problem with the ROG Ally was the compromise was Windows, which is it was absolutely awful to use on that device. Like you couldn't just turn on the device and then start playing. And I didn't realize at the time how much of when all you want to do is just play something, the plug and play experience, the console plug and play experience, that just wasn't present on the ROG Ally or the Lenovo Legion Go. It was like an investment. When you wanted to sit there and play on one of those devices, it was an investment. It was like, okay, I'm gonna sit there and do this now. Once you're in a game, it was fine, but actually just getting into a game, that was like annoying shit, man. You know, sometimes like the fingerprint reader wouldn't work, and I'd have to log in manually and all that kind of bullshit. Use a touchscreen, irritating to say the least. And that's why the Xbox Ally is so awesome, because you can turn it on and get straight into a game. And like you with the Steam Deck OLED, it has changed the way I approach games. Like I wrote an article about this, where like I used to lie in bed of an evening and doom scroll. Now I lie in bed of an evening and just turn on the Xbox Ally and just start gaming. And that's sort of like the amount of ease there is kind of what you get on a Switch. It's kind of what you get on a Steam Deck. So I'm glad to see like them starting to approach that more seriously. And obviously there are still compromises. There's not that many Play Anywhere games, for example. A lot of the PC games don't work well, like Death Stranding, like I mentioned earlier. But it's just kind of getting there. And there's enough stuff there. And like I mentioned in my coverage today, Xbox has a partner showcase coming in November, which, from what I understand, is going to have Xbox Play Anywhere as a headline act. So all of the games potentially are going to be Xbox Play Anywhere, and also potentially have a very strong, tie into the Xbox Ally. And also IGN has an Ideal Xbox partner showcase tomorrow for indie games. That's going live on IGN tomorrow. And from what I've heard, that's also going to be heavily Xbox Play Anywhere skewed. We've also got like a bunch of games coming to Xbox Play Anywhere that are announced, like Paradise, what's it called? Pacific Drive, for example. That's Xbox Play Anywhere, and that was like PlayStation exclusive for a while. There's a lot of games like that are launching on the PC store for Xbox now. They just increasingly just come with Play Anywhere. Silent Hill F's Play Anywhere, Ready or Not was Play Anywhere, Chronos New Dawn's Play Anywhere. More and more of these games are coming to Play Anywhere without being on Game Pass. Like before, it was the whole thing was like they have to be on Game Pass in order for them to bother with Play Anywhere. But now, like a lot of companies just like, yeah, we'll throw it on Play Anywhere as well. Fuck it, which is great, right? But yeah, it's cool you're enjoying the Steam Deck OLED. I haven't used the Steam Deck OLED. I've only used the regular ass Steam Deck, so I never got an opportunity to use the OLED. But that's one thing a lot of people complained about with the Ally is like it's not an OLED screen. You're paying $1,000 and you're getting a last gen screen basically. But yeah, I do wish it was an OLED, but I think the Legion Go 2 has an OLED. But the problem with the Legion Go 2 doesn't have the AI bullshit, the auto resolution that's coming next year. So trade-offs, right? Thanks so much for the super chat, man. What else we got here? we've got scrolling up. We've got Falcon's Tech with the 5. Let me just kill this monster before it kills my ass. One moment. Can MS do anything to change how games media treats Xbox? Finally released a ton of high quality games, but Xbox is treated like a punching bag. And that kind of ties into Face 23 BK and Y with the 2. Thank you so much, buddy. Xbox's bad news is overshadowing its games releases. Yeah, I mean, I wrote that today that you know, the way Xbox has sort of handled itself recently has led to its games being overshadowed. We've got like a scenario where Microsoft has released a sprint of games on Metacritic that did really well. And I think in any other news cycle, people would be writing articles about that. People were saying like, before the price hikes and the layoffs, I think Jen on Windows Central wrote an article that was something along the lines of, did anyone notice that Game Pass is on fire right now? Because we had Doom, we had Oblivion, we had Expedition, and we had Blueprints and a bunch of other games that just sort of launched into Game Pass, and it was this sprint of positivity, and it was like, oh man, this is awesome. But now, like, Microsoft stepped on so many rakes, and they've raised prices, they've laid everyone off, and they've confused everyone with the strategy, and there's a lot of like negativity out there. And you've got the rumors of Amy Hood and the 30% margin thing, and all this kind of stuff sort of coalesces into a news cycle where, like you say, the games are being overlooked. And I think it really sucks for the teams. It's really unfair and it's really horrible that shit is being overlooked. But Microsoft's kind of done it to themselves to some degree. And it's like, how can Microsoft fix that? I honestly don't know, man. I really, really don't know. I've thought about, like, one thing I've thought about is trying to write an article where I speak to journalists and content creators and say, like, what do you think Xbox needs to do better? But the problem is a lot of them won't talk to you about that kind of thing. Either like they don't want to support a competitor maybe, or, maybe they just think I'm an asshole, which, is completely fine and justifiable. But I'd love to know some of this stuff, because obviously when you see journalists at Xbox events, it's all smiles, because it's like, hey, Microsoft's giving us free drinks, right? And everyone's getting on, everyone's all buddy, pally, and then like the next week later, so it's all the hate comes out again. So I don't know what Microsoft can do. I think not lay people off would be a nice one. Have Satya Nadella actually acknowledge gaming exists occasionally. Listen to the fans a little bit more. Acknowledge that the fans are, carrying a lot of, FUD right now on their behalf, frankly. I think there's not been a lot of acknowledgement from the core fans. I'd like to see that improve. But, it's tough. I don't know if anything could move the needle potentially. It's like you said, they've had a sprint of really high quality games and they're on every platform and they've got reviewed well, and that's been completely overshadowed, like Faze said. How do you fix that shit, man? I mean, tell me in chat, give me your ideas. Let's brainstorm. Because I don't fucking know. I don't fucking know, man. Not be shit. That'd be a good start. Be good. Be nice. Not be an asshole. Not raise prices. Not give Satya $100 million in stock options as pay. Why do we live in this universe, man, where it's like the customers are secondary to shareholders? And I suppose, like, Lena Khan and the FTC and a lot of what they said was, I genuinely believe, purely ideological, and then bitterness coupled with ideology. But there is something to be said for a company that's become too big to fail. Microsoft's kind of one of those companies. When there's so much stock invested in a company like Microsoft ends up in a position where they have no choice but to prioritize the shareholders and what the shareholders want over the customers. And I think that's one of the sort of the failings of late stage capitalism. Because capitalism works great, I think, when you have healthy competition. And I do think Xbox has competition to a degree. Of course they do. But how many companies are as big and diversified as Microsoft where they can get away with any single one of the divisions folding and it not even dent their share price? There aren't many companies like that that can boast that degree of power where they can completely virtually ignore their customers and the business be completely fine. Like if other companies did that, smaller companies, less diversified companies did that, and they pissed off their customers, they wouldn't have a business anymore, you know. Whereas like these huge conglomerates, they can do things like fold different parts of the business, and the rest of the company ends up being fine, you know. Oh man, this place is laggy. Let's get out of Suramar, I think. Man, Suramar is so laggy. How does anyone quest here, man? Where should we go? Storm mode? Let's go to Storm mode. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know if they can do anything, but being treating their customers and their developers and their employees better would be a start, you know. The way Xbox handled the layoffs, for me, it's the layoffs more than anything, you know. I still think Xbox gives customers good value. I mean, even if like they haven't really acknowledged some of the concerns fans have in any way, and they've just sort of when they had do interviews, it's all very corporate, it's all very for the shareholders, it's never for fans. I don't like that. But the thing that really pisses me off is the way they handled the layoffs. Because I know like so many people who were laid off so unceremoniously after giving so much of their lives to this company, moving house, you know, uprooting their families to work for Microsoft and have this opportunity. And then they weren't laid off for any failing. They weren't laid off for performance issues. They were laid off because they were unlucky in an adjustment lottery, you know. I think that's fucking despicable, frankly. And that's like a failing of our system that Microsoft can get away with that completely unpunished, or in fact be rewarded for it. You know, they'll be rewarded for that shit. Satya will be rewarded for that shit. I don't think that's okay. So I think they'll have earned the scrutiny. And I think a lot of people want to see them fail on that basis. But the problem is like the people who want to see Microsoft fail because of those layoffs, they don't realize like, or they pretend they don't realize, or they actually don't really care and they just ride in the hate train. If Xbox fails, it's going to mean thousands of more layoffs, isn't it? I would have thought. So I don't want to see Xbox fail, you know, not just for the customers, but if Xbox fails, that's thousands of people who are going to be laid off. You know, and you'll see people celebrate that shit. Like, yeah, Xbox is dead, yay, you know, and it's like, hang on a sec. You were mad at Xbox because of the layoffs, but now you're happy that Xbox is shut down and more people are going to be laid off. Like, make it make sense, guys. I don't know. I don't know, man. What else we got here? Face23 says Xbox was pro-consumer and did a complete U-turn. I mean, yeah, that's it, man. They did the backwards compatibility stuff, and then they did the acquisitions, and then Phil was out here saying things like, we've done these acquisitions for exclusives, you know, for the Xbox customer who said to us, we want exclusives, we want more games. A lot of shit's changed, man, you know, and it sucks. I think like a big one for me is like revealing Perfect Dark gameplay, getting everyone excited, and then canceling it. You know, I thought we were past this announcing revealing bullshit before it was ready. If like Perfect Dark was not in a state to be able to ship eventually, I don't think you should really be showing it off, you know. So yeah, they've earned a lot of that shit, you know. But we'll see if they do better, you know. I'm not going to sit here and root for Xbox to fail when there's still so many players and there's still so many devs and still so many employees that rely on the business to succeed, you know. But that also doesn't mean you can't hate the bullshit that they've been pulling too. It's got to be a balance, man. It's got to be a balance. What else we got here? We've got the Casing Stones. JEZ, why hasn't Microsoft leveraged any of its first-party studios and powerful IP so that people associate Xbox with them? That would help hype and give people something warm to feel. Well, I did notice that Xbox has started putting Xbox Game Studios at the start of its PlayStation games, so that's something, right? I know exactly what you mean, and I've tried to communicate this to people at Xbox that I speak to. I'm like, I think a lot of people are okay with not having exclusives. You know, some people are definitely pissed about not having exclusives, but I think most people acknowledge that as long as they get to play the games, more money for the devs is a good thing in theory. You know, you can at least acknowledge that mathematical reality. But I've tried to communicate that it's like you're doing all this stuff for everyone but your current community and your fan base that you've curated. Like, you've done things like FanFest. You have social media accounts. You try to curate fans. You have merchandise. So you do want fans when it suits you. But when it's something like this, you kind of shut down and you don't know how to cope with it. And you go all quiet and you no longer want to communicate anymore. And it gets all weird. And it reminds us all that, you know, I think, like, in reality, we all know that, like Rand always says, corporations aren't your friends. They are never your friends, ever. But sometimes it's fun to pretend that at least they're going to try to do right by you when you've invested in a company, no matter what company it is, when it's like, you know, any brand you like, whether it's Coca-Cola or McDonald's, you trust that when you go to McDonald's that the food isn't going to poison you, at least not instantaneously. It might poison you over time, maybe, but not instantaneously, right? So I've tried to communicate that to Xbox, but it's really hard to put into words. It's like, how do you can you do something to make us feel like you still give a shit, you know? And I talk about things that are sort of pro Xbox console player only. I've talked about things like, give us an achievement revamp, the thing that people have been asking for a million fucking years, you know? Just something small like that, like a small gesture. Put like 2 or 3 people on it just to add some more functionality to the achievement system. You know, you've got all the data there already. You know, you've got, like, you know, if someone's hit 1,000 gamer score, give us the platinum trophy kind of system, right? There's loads of stuff they could do, I think. But, you know, when you zoom out and you ignore all the FUD and the drama and the bullshit, Microsoft has sort of like, they've been very heads down on the things that I think Phil does well, which is like managing the business aspect. And they have started shipping games now. Like, some of the studios are really hitting their stride. Obsidian's released a banger just recently. Keeper was really cool, and that reviewed well. And, you know, you had Oblivion remaster, and we're going to get Fallout 3 and hopefully Fallout New Vegas remastered in the same vein. You know, a lot of these game studios are hitting their stride now. And it feels like for years and years and years, the thing that we were complaining to Xbox about was the game situation, right? It was like, where are the games? Where are the quality games? Where are the games that we can point to on Metacritic? You know, why are we getting games like Crackdown 3, you know, and stuff like that, instead of, like, I don't know, AAA bangers, you know, and stuff like that? Why are we getting Redfall, that kind of thing? They've started to solve that issue now, but now, like, they've given so much attention to that aspect of the business. The sort of the other aspects of the business have suffered for it, you know. So I agree with you. Like, there should be more stuff done, but I do think there is like a universe where they could do more, you know, for the console player, you know. What else we got here? If you've got a question, at me at JEZ so I can actually see them. Roberto Marx is not very happy with Xbox. Are you an Xbox user, dude, or are you just here to troll? Like, Roberto, communicate. Like, what do you think Xbox should do? What do you think Xbox should do? Like, genuinely speaking, like, put all the trolling aside if you are a troll. What do you think Xbox could do? What could Xbox do for you? I want to know what you think, like, genuinely. So Abdel says, Jez, any idea when WoW comes to Xbox? So this is an interesting topic, right? Because one of the things they've been doing in WoW is simplifying it. Some people are not happy about this. The fact that WoW is getting simplified. Because a lot of people think like they're simplifying WoW on purpose for the console version. Because like right now, playing some classes in WoW is a bit like learning a musical instrument. You've got like so many keybinds, especially if you're playing a healer. Like healing in WoW is like easily the most stressful gaming experience I think I've ever had. Like healing like high level mythic keys as a disc priest, especially during some seasons where disc was bad. Like I've never been so stressed playing a game in my life. It's like playing whack-a-mole, except like if you fuck it up, you die. You know, it's crazy, man. So they've been simplifying a lot of that stuff, and like some of the PC WoW players now have this conspiracy theory that they're simplifying it to make it more easy to bring to console. So I do think you will see WoW on console natively. You'll certainly see WoW on console with the next Xbox because obviously you get like native PC games on next Xbox. Zach Riley says Icy Veins put out an article saying the WoW for consoles coming out in 2027. I did not see that. Is that new? I'm gonna pull that up right now because I haven't heard that. I mean, Blizzard has said that like they wanna make controller work with WoW. So there are add-ons you can download that let you play WoW on a Steam Deck with a controller. But it's not natively supported. So, Icy Veins, WoW is headed to Xbox. Oh, dude, did you actually click on the story? What the fuck? Did they write this with AI? I got a feeling this was written with AI, man. So, yeah, there's no author. Can't click on the author's name. Written by Stan. According to a report by Windows Central, World of Warcraft is officially coming to Xbox, not through cloud workarounds, was a full native install thanks to Microsoft next-gen console built on Windows. So that's Icy Veins' take, right? Is that because of the next-gen Xbox being a PC, you'll be able to run World of Warcraft. But I think, like, what you really want is a native console version. So you want, like, an Xbox Series S and X version, because at least, I'd say for at least 5 or 6 years, developers are still going to make native versions of Xbox Series S and X games, right? So, because that user base is still going to be there. So I think like you kind of want to have an Xbox version that you can bring to PlayStation as well. So I think that is probably what they're going to work towards. I don't know when that'll happen, but clearly they're laying the groundwork now by simplifying the combat system, making it easier to like, you know, fewer keybinds is what they're going for. It's like having fewer keybinds, fewer buttons to press. And also like, there's also this like one button rotation mode now where like in exchange for a damage decrease, you can just play the game with one button. So like it's really good for accessibility, I suppose, or if you're just feeling lazy sometimes. But you know, it is a DPS decrease if you use it, in theory. But I think it'll happen. And I think it'll come to PlayStation as well. That's what they're working towards. But it could be a while. Maybe a couple of years, maybe? That's gonna predict a couple of years. Let's say a couple of years. Zach Riley was trolling me. GG, Zach. GG, buddy. Frank F says, problem with Healer is so many DPS have a death wish. Yeah, I mean, yeah. I mean, I play Warlock as a main, and I will stand in AoE if I think I can survive it, just to get an extra global cooldown off. You know, so I'm guilty of that. I will stand in AoE. It's like, hey, I can survive this explosion. I'll just throw up some defensives and stand in it, and then die. Oh man, funny times, man. I do love this game. What else we got here? Outbreak Gamers. Jez, I would love to donate to you to help offset the cost of going to LA and June. Man, I really, really appreciate that. I couldn't ask, man. I couldn't ask. I mean, I suppose technically I do ask with Patreon, but and that's the thing, like with the Patreon, like that's one of the things I was thinking while going to Gamescom is like, well, you know, people support my content through Patreon, so I should go to these events, you know. So maybe we do just go to it, you know. I mean, Gamescom is one thing because it's like it's in Europe, it's relatively close by, and it's easy to get to. California is a different thing entirely. California is not cheap, man. Getting to California from Europe is expensive, and also the hotels are crazy expensive. The food's expensive. Why is LA so expensive, man? Not as expensive as London, though. Not as expensive as London. Captain Awesome says, playing Ron's favorite game today. Yes, we are. We are trying to do... Okay, so the thing I'm doing in WoW right now, which is really brainless, and I'm glad you guys are here to help me make it less boring, is I've got to do 100 world quests. That is currently what we're trying to achieve, is 100 world quests. It's very boring. It's very, very dull. And we're doing this because if you do 100 world quests in heroic difficulty mode, you get a really cool shadowy suit that I want for my priest. Very, very important. Oh man. I need that Alex music that he always plays when he says something depressing. It's really boring. I really hate this. Like it's really burning me out actually. Like this achievement is like really burning me out. It's not fun. But it's like that FOMO's got me, man. I want that transmog. And you can only get it during this event. You can only get it during this event. So I'm at 47 out of 50 world quests right now. So when I started the stream, we were at 27. So I've done a bunch of these quests with you guys' help. We're almost halfway. It's taken me like a week to get to halfway. That's crazy, man. Like I avoid grinds in WoW usually, but I really, really want this transmog, man. Like I'm gonna show you guys how cool this transmog is. It is a cool transmog. I would usually not grind, but it's like it looks like this. It looks like this, but it's purple and shadowy. So I got the fire one, but we want the shadow version because my priest is a shadow priest. So we need the shadow version. It's very important, guys. Can't tell you how important this is. It's making me lose the will to live. But we need the fucking shadowy transmog, chap. Even if it makes me lose the will to live, we need the shadowy transmog. Oh, man. Zach Riley says, where's the fire one from? So you get the fire one from doing a plus 30 Legion Remix key. So someone in my guild boosted me a plus 30 key earlier. So that's how we got that one. You get the light version from doing every mythic raid. So you can't do that until August launches. So you got a few weeks for that one. And then the green one comes from doing the main campaign quest. RP Spaces says, Jez, did you see Fonz call you mouthpiece for Microsoft? Thoughts? I mean, that's fine. I mean, I criticize Microsoft, I think, when they deserve to be criticized. I would hope that anyone who watches my content thinks that I give Microsoft their due when they fuck up. But people can think whatever they want, man. It's all good. You know, I'm just doing my best. Doing my best out here. That's all we can do. I like Fonz. He's a cool dude. I spoke to him the other day, actually. So, you know, but he's entitled to his opinion, like all of us are, right? A lot of people are angry at Microsoft right now for a variety of reasons. They think they've thrown in the towel. They don't like to see the weakness. They don't like the corporate interviews and all that kind of stuff. And I think a lot of people ultimately just want to see Xbox do better. Like even people who are really angry at them, they want to see Xbox do better for them and for the fans alike. And I get that. I really do get that, you know. What sucks is that just regular fans get attacked. Like you're not allowed to be a regular Xbox fan anymore. It means you're a target now on social media. It is what it is, right? It's fine. I think like people like Fonz and others, like they genuinely care, want Xbox to do better. But then you get some channels where like they're not even Xbox users. They don't use Xbox. They've never used Xbox. Some journalists as well. They don't use Xbox. They've never used Xbox. They don't care about Xbox. And they sort of just want to profit on the negativity. So like there's two types of negativity when it comes to Xbox. Like one of it's like I suppose to some degree constructive, where it's like you want to see them do better. And then there's also negativity where it's like, oh, everyone's mad at Xbox right now. How can I profit from this? And I think there's a lot of that going around right now. And you guys know exactly who it is. You know which channels have never touched an Xbox in their lives. Or if they do, they just bought it so they could say, hey, I've got an Xbox, and then returned it. Take a little quick picture of it, you know. Jez, did you try the Outworlds 2 yet? What do you think? Outworlds 2. I haven't tried it yet. I do have a code. I haven't tried it yet because I'm trying to review Dying Light the Beast. Because Techland have been very nice to me, and I know Dying Light the Beast came out ages ago, and I know nobody's going to read a review of a game that came out ages ago, but I really want to get it done. Dying Light the Beast is really cool, and I think it flew under the radar a bit. It launched at a difficult time when a lot of other good games came out. And also, I think the name of the game is a little bit confusing. I think people weren't sure if Dying Light the Beast was actually a new game or not, or whether it was like some kind of DLC or an expansion. I noticed this happen a lot of times where a game that has been like historically sequential, like we had Dying Light 1, Dying Light 2, and then the next Dying Light is Dying Light the Beast. So people are like, hang on a sec, is this a new game? Is this a DLC? What is this? And I think like if it had just been called Dying Light 3, I think that would have helped it to some degree. And I think like they didn't want to call it Dying Light 3 because, you know, it uses a lot of like what exists in Dying Light 2. But at the same time, there's so much new stuff. I think they could have called it Dying Light 3 and nobody would have minded. I don't know. But I do want to get around to Outworlds 2. Obviously a big fan of the first game. Obsidian doesn't like me very much. Unfortunately. But I earned that. So that kind of weighs on me when I play some of Obsidian's games. I'm like, do I deserve to play this? Knowing that the people who made this probably wouldn't want me to play it. So I do genuinely think about that shit. But hopefully they're cool with me checking it out. And I'll get around to it, man. I'll get around to it. So what else we got here? Jez, have you heard anything about PlayStation games on Xbox? I haven't heard anything about PlayStation game coming to Xbox. I haven't heard anything about that. So we just have to wait and see. Just have to wait and see what comes next for them. What else do we have here? Everyone wants Xbox players to play nice, but PlayStation isn't sharing. The end of the console war is one-sided. I mean, Yeah, I can see that. But at least like with the next Xbox, if you do get the next Xbox, you are potentially going to get those games in a sort of roundabout kind of way. So like either from the Epic Game Store, because all PlayStation games are on the Epic Game Store as well. Either from the Epic Game Store or from Steam, all the PlayStation games will be there, and they'll be all available by default. And I do wonder, like in that universe, does Sony just because one of the things about the next Xbox is going to be like Microsoft's on the PC store, Microsoft takes a 12% cut, not a 30% cut. If you buy an Xbox Play Anywhere game from the Microsoft store on PC, they get the full 88% revenue, not 70% revenue, which they would have got if you bought it on the console. So if I'm a Sony and I have to pay Steam 30%, wouldn't it be better for me to just put it straight onto Xbox and preclude Steam from the conversation? Because Steam's the one taking 30%, whereas Xbox on the next gen system, they would only take 12%. I think it's 12%, something like that. Something around 12%. Don't quote me on the exact number, but it's lower. it's in the teens, something like that. So Microsoft made that change a few years ago, where game developers on the Microsoft Store, they get like a much better cut. I think it's equivalent to whatever Epic Games offers. I think that's 12% off the top of my head. But you know, it is what it is. We'll see what happens with PlayStation. JEZ, when is Rand going to play Pokemon, says Mr. Supernova. Good question, man. I don't think Rand's ever going to play Pokemon because I think the last time Rand played Pokemon, I think it traumatized him. I think it traumatized him and he'll never play Pokemon ever again. Ever again. What else we got here? DJ Marsh says, next Xbox is old Sony games and has to hope for PlayStation to port JEZ. See, that sucks. I mean, yeah, you know, it's not as good as Microsoft just like being all out there like, yeah, day one on PlayStation. But you know, maybe Microsoft's model is so successful that it forces PlayStation's hand. Because you got to remember, it's not just Microsoft going this way. Steam is going to release a console. Steam's going to release a console that has both PlayStation and Xbox games on it. Whereas the Xbox games are probably going to sell better because they're going to be there day and date. Whereas the PlayStation games are going to sell worse because they're going to launch after their marketing cycle and when the games are old. You know, so increasingly people just play where they want to play. Sony's kind of opened that floodgate now where PC gamers are patient people. They will wait. You know, some PC gamers might buy a PlayStation or an Xbox to play GTA 6. GTA 6 is going to be exclusive to console for a time, but plenty of them will just be like, I'm gonna wait. I'm going to play this on my PC rig, which I've invested a lot of money into. I'm going to play it here. And, you know, they'll wait for the Sony games. I'm one of them, you know. I ain't buying a PlayStation. I literally don't want to have a device that I only use for certain exclusives. I've got a PC, so I will play the games on that when they launch there eventually. But, you know, if you're a console user, an Xbox console user, I get that it's like, it does feel like a one-sided thing. And I think that's kind of the message that Xbox is going to struggle with, because it's like, you've supported Sony and Sony's done very little to support us, you know. They've given us Helldivers, which is great, but it's also a second party game. So Sony was helping Arrowhead by releasing that on Xbox, getting Arrowhead to have more money. So Xbox users can help fund the development of that game, you know, rather than just rely entirely on PlayStation and PC install base. And Helldivers doing pretty well on Xbox, you know. It was one of the most sold games, I think, once they got their data sorted out for the month that it came out. So, you know, we'll see. We'll see what happens with all this shit. Liber98 says, Jizz, do you see a future where upcoming AMD GPUs may have Xbox capabilities built in? You know, we actually discussed this near the start of the show. Like, one of the things that Microsoft is actually currently deciding is whether or not to allow OEMs access to the Xbox ecosystem silicon. So like Microsoft's purchased that order from AMD, but Microsoft obviously has a say what happens to that silicon, right? Because it's their ecosystem. It's custom designed for their ecosystem. Now, Microsoft hasn't decided whether to let OEMs have access to that yet. From what I've been told, they're still deciding whether or not to do it. Personally, I think they should do it. I think Microsoft should open that shit up to OEMs and just be like, make an Asus cheaper Xbox or an Asus more expensive Xbox. Or hell, maybe we could see a universe where people can take a GPU and build their own Xbox. You know, what would that look like? I think that'd be cool as shit. You know, but I also like I can see Microsoft's side of it. Microsoft might be like the Xbox ecosystem and you know the library that we built up and the customers that we built up. That's like our most valuable asset right now. Microsoft's most valuable asset is us, the Xbox current user base. Microsoft spend a lot of money chasing new users, but currently, as the business flows right now, it's us that are powering this business. So, Microsoft might be like, that's going to be the exclusive feature of our first party hardware is access to that classic stuff. I don't know. But it kind of goes against everything else that Microsoft's done with regards to this ecosystem, where it's just like, you know, everyone gets to make everything's an Xbox, right? So I think they'll do it. I think they'll ultimately end up deciding, yeah, let's let OEMs make their own Xboxes and let's put GPUs out there so people can make their own Xboxes too. Oh, you know. I suppose that like muddies the waters a little bit with regards to making games that run well natively out of the box. Because obviously, if you're throwing in a bunch of extra hardware configurations there, that makes it more confusing for developers and they have to account for more things. But you know, you'd have to wonder, is this not something AI could solve? And the game profile system, you know, we'll see, man. We'll see. So 9 lives to 10 says, Jez, how much will the next Xbox cost? I honestly don't know, man. Microsoft itself doesn't know. There's no real sort of, I mean, they know it's going to be expensive. So the only information I've got is what Sarah already put out there, that it's going to be a premium device. Windows obviously has overheads. Windows takes more system resources up than a traditional console would, which means like to achieve the same performance as the equivalent console with full Windows and full Windows compatibility, you need more powerful hardware, blah, 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 so on and so forth. So it's probably not going to be cheap. But this is kind of like where you would hope that OEMs could step in and make cheaper versions, more affordable versions, a no frills version. Maybe the Xbox version's all singing and dancing, but maybe the OEM version is a bit cheaper and maybe a little less powerful. Maybe it has less storage. I don't know. I don't know, man. I honestly don't know. I couldn't even make a guess. I don't even want to make a guess because I have no idea. I would hope that it'd come in like at most, absolute most, $7.99. I would hope. But maybe that's even optimistic, man. I don't know. But we don't know what the situation is going to look like with tariffs. I mean, one of the things that, you know, one of the issues that the Xbox ecosystem has right now is tariffs. And like things like the iPhone are exempt from a lot of tariffs, but gaming consoles aren't exempt from tariffs. But if the next Xbox is a PC, do they get some of the exemptions? Because like some laptops are exempt from tariffs, you know. And if the next Xbox is a PC, then do they get that exemption? I don't fucking know. Will there even be tariffs by then? You know, Trump administration, I think, put out some information the other day that said like trade talks with China were going well, but you know, that doesn't mean anything. So maybe they're going well today, they'll go bad tomorrow. You know, swings and roundabouts, isn't it, with the current political landscape? Yeah, it's all whatever. And there was that. Stone says, considering RAM is almost 100% more today than it was 3 months ago, it's all up in the air. Yeah, I saw like, wasn't there a report that Samsung was going to put up prices of RAM or something? I don't know. RJ's Fun Time says, Jez, you're on camera right now. Why can't Rand do that? I don't know. Rand, like, he just doesn't want to go on camera. I think Rand's got like a medical issue with his skin that he wants to get solved before he goes on camera, I think. So that's part of it. But also I think Rand's like his office space is not doesn't lend itself well to being on camera, like with lighting and shit like that. So there are some hurdles to overcome there with regards to camera. I've got like a good setup here for camera generally. Like I've got a decent light up there. I've got like a decent background enough, you know. You can see my unmade bed. But like mostly my setup's okay-ish. Okay-ish, I suppose, for going on camera. But we'll get around on camera someday, I think. I did buy Streamlabs OBS recently. I bought a month just to check it out. Because one of the cool things I'm doing soon, my other podcast with Berserker, we're actually interviewing a World of Warcraft developer on my World of Warcraft podcast on YouTube this week. I think tomorrow, actually. So, yeah, that'll be on video as well. So that'll be fun and interesting. You know? So we'll try and get around on camera eventually. We'll see what happens. Easy Cure says, you're airing out your bed, not unmade. Yeah, exactly, man. Exactly. I'm just airing it out. Airing it out. Yeah, man. The fake pseudonym says, Greg Miller said on Kind of Funny recently that he mostly plays on PC and Xbox now, partially because of Game Pass and Play Anywhere. PS entire value proposition is based on an extremely small number of games. Yeah, man. I mean, that's it. That's it for me. Like, everyone says get a PlayStation. I'm just like, it's a small number of games for me. And my backlog on PC and Xbox is endless and made worse by Game Pass and then worse by the service games I play, like World of Bloody Warcraft. Do I have room in my life for a PlayStation, which I'm only going to use for exclusives? And, you know, if I'd gone all in on PlayStation to begin with, then I'd feel differently about it. But, like, so far after the fact, like hundreds of Steam games later and hundreds of Xbox games later, like I feel like I don't need a PlayStation. I can buy those games on PC, you know. Xbox has kind of changed up my gaming habits. You know, some people interpret that as like, you hate PlayStation. I got a guy tweeting me yesterday, or this morning rather. He was like, yeah, you love Xbox because you hate PlayStation. It's like, that's not how this fucking works, you know. I like vanilla ice cream. That doesn't mean I hate strawberry ice cream. It's a different fucking flavor of the same fucking thing. It's not that serious, man. I mean, I've said pretty mean things about Nintendo. Because I think Nintendo does some shitty things, you know, like bullying Pal World and it like it just sort of like, I don't know, it makes me salty that Nintendo can sell millions and millions of copies of a game like Pokemon ZA or AZ or whatever it's called. I can't even remember. That looks like a fucking 2010 mobile game, and they can sell millions and millions of copies and get away with it. That blows my fucking mind, man, in a kind of jealous kind of way. Like, imagine if Xbox or PlayStation tried to release a game that was like basically identical but didn't have the Pokemon brand with those kind of graphics. They get fucking crucified for it. And I think everyone here knows that. I think even Pokemon fans know that secretly. But I don't even hate Nintendo. Like, I grew up playing Nintendo. Like, when I was in hospital as a kid, like with sepsis, I had sepsis when I was a kid from untreated fucking appendicitis or peritonitis. I can't remember. It was one or both of them. I had a Nintendo, Super Nintendo with Mario All Stars, and I went, when I was in hospital, I went through all of those games, and it was a lifesaver, man. It was like I was in hospital for months, and I just played Super Metroid. Like, I didn't have a Nintendo at home. I had no exposure to Nintendo whatsoever. I think the UK was very Sega dominated because Sega was like the cheaper system. Sega had the cheaper games. So I think a lot of people in my circle, they had Sega systems. They didn't have Nintendo because Nintendo was like the premium option. at least back then. But I had like access to a Nintendo in a Super Nintendo, a SNES as we called them in the UK, in hospital, and I love that thing, man. Super Metroid, like playing that shit without a guide in hospital, and having to play it without a guide, like being forced to. Loved it, man. It was amazing. It was an amazing experience. Completely made me forget like that I just like had all these surgeries and shit. But so yeah, I don't even hate Nintendo. But just because I don't feel like I want to play, like I want to own a whole console and a whole ecosystem for just a few games, I just can't be bothered. I got two ecosystems that I invest in, Xbox and PC, and like even PCs, like I'll wait for the Xbox version. People just play where they want to play, and there's nothing wrong with that. And people get so salty about this shit, man. You know, and console wars and all that kind of thing. And I don't know why. It's especially when it's like grown adults and shit. It freaks me out, bro. I don't care about any of that shit. PlayStation makes amazing games. Like I was playing Ghost of Tsushima on my ROG Ally, and it's just like you immediately feel the quality. You play God of War, you immediately feel the quality. Or you play like The Last of Us. Like I played Last of Us Remastered for the first time, like fairly recently, the last couple of years. Absolutely amazing experience. Like the intro to Last of Us, I don't think I'll ever play that game again because the intro is so fucking devastating. It's like I don't want to feel that pain again, please. But you know, but I don't want to buy a whole console for it. So stick it on PC and I'll play it there. You know, I don't think there's anything wrong with it. Stone says, not sure if you covered this. Thoughts on the Fallout Day announcements? They didn't really announce anything particularly major, did they? I think it was like they announced expansion for 76. I haven't been playing 76. I have these weird bursts with Fallout 76 where like I'll get really into it and obsessive about it for a little while and then get burned out. I think one of the things I don't really like about Fallout 76 is the progression system is a little bit, it's unclear. I think when I play Fallout 76, you don't really get a sense of progression, a clear sense of progression in the way that you're doing well. You're just kind of dumping things into that machine that gives you random ass loot. You know, I think like, and I know they've improved some of that stuff, and didn't they add like ways to control what affixes your gear gets and stuff like that, I think, over time. But I think even then it was hard to really feel the impact that your decisions were having on your build and stuff like that. And also when I was playing, like I wanted to play a gunslinger and like pistols were like pathetically weak. The game's balance seems all over the place as well. So I ended up just not getting into it on those kind of bases. I do think it's a shame that they didn't announce anything new. I mean, we've all heard for a while that they're working on Fallout 3, Fallout New Vegas remasters, probably with the same dudes who made Oblivion. Oblivion remastered, but still no announcement yet. Maybe they're saving that for the showcase. I mean, it'd be a big announcement, right? Peak Zenkai says, JEZ, does the PlayStation handheld sound like it might be up your alley? See, now that's where things get a little bit more interesting. One of the issues that I've got is that I don't have my own place. I live half the time at my girlfriend's place and half the time at my parents' place. So I can't afford my own place. The UK housing market is fucked up. And my girlfriend is still trying to find a good job. And I think when my girlfriend finds a job, we'll probably get a place in Germany or whatever. So, like, I mean, you guys can see, like, I'll show you in a sec. One moment. Let me just kill this dude. Captain Brevet. All right, killed him. Thank you very much. Let's go back into stealth. Why am I in combat still? I'm not in combat anymore. Oh, no, I am in combat. Why am I in combat? Oh. Okay, there we go. Out of combat. So, I just don't have a lot of space, man. I mean, this is like my entire setup. I got my laptop here, squashed up against the monitor, and then like, here's where my gaming shit is. You know, I've got like, there's the Xbox, and there's the Xbox Ally sitting on top of it. And then the only other surface I've got is my vinyl record player, which, you know, is taking up a ton of space. So like, I could put my PlayStation on the floor or underneath there if I got one. But it's like, you don't want to put the PlayStation on the floor, for God's sake. I suppose I could wall mount it, but then it's like, do I really want to drill the wall for a few games? However, if they had handheld, which wouldn't take up a lot of space, that might be an option. Something that I could occasionally plug into the TV, maybe with the same dock that I'm using for the Xbox Ally. That does sound a little bit more interesting to me. I've tried PlayStation Plus cloud streaming, and the PC app is fucking awful. So it's like, that's not really an option either. But PlayStation handheld, I had the PlayStation Vita. You know, I've still got my PlayStation Vita somewhere. It's in a drawer somewhere. I love that thing, man. I used to use YouTube on that thing. The PlayStation Vita was ahead of its time, man. It was really ahead of its time, and it was way better than like what Nintendo offers with the Switch. Fuck, thing had apps on it and stuff, man. Crazy. But yeah, PlayStation handheld. I'm interested in that. Genuinely. Jez, what is your favorite vinyl? Oh man, that's a hard question. I've got a bunch of like really cool limited edition vinyls. Like when I don't have a ton of vinyls. I got about maybe 25 now because again, space issue. So like the vinyl record player, I actually tried to sell my vinyl record player because I was like, this is just taking up way too much space. But nobody wanted to buy it. So I was like, well, I can keep it then. But like I've got a bunch. Yeah, this is a cool vinyl. I'll show you this one. So I don't even know if this is available anymore, but can you see that? It's the Cuphead soundtrack vinyl. So this is fucking badass. Like it looks like all classic, like 1950s style vinyl and shit. It's fucking awesome, man. I've never actually played this. But it's like, it's awesome. But that's one cool vinyl I've got, and I've actually just destroyed the case. Need some more glue. That's one cool vinyl I've got. I've got a bunch of gaming vinyls because of because of like sometimes companies just send you them. I've got the Halo Wars 2 soundtrack on vinyl. Oh shit, I'm getting killed. Let's just vanish there. Am I in combat? How the fuck did I get in combat there? That's weird. Let's hide. I got the Halo Wars 2 vinyl. I got a bunch of vinyls that are still in the plastic because I've never played them. But yeah, man. I recently bought the Slipknot 25th anniversary vinyl for the self-titled album. Twin Peaks soundtrack. Angelo Badalamenti. Fucking sweet vinyl, man. There's tons of cool stuff, man. So yeah, that's all the cool shit. So, guys, we've been here for almost 2 hours now. 3 hours? 3 hours. 2 hours. So, I'm getting sleepy. So, I think we're going to wrap it up now. But I'll just get the last couple of super chats that I might have missed. We've got super chat from Mr. Supernova. Thank you so much for the 5. Why don't Phil ask leaders at studios to rise the quality bar like PlayStation has, or is that expensive and can't fit in with the Game Pass model? I think the reason is you can't brute force your way to quality. It kind of has to happen organically, and it takes time. And I think you're going to see some of the fruits of this with In Exile. So I don't know if any of you guys have played In Exile's Wasteland 3. It's a very awesome game, and I love it very much. but you can feel there is some degree of jankiness associated with Wasteland 3. There's not many cutscenes in the game, very, very few sort of cinematics. It's an awesome tactics game, it's an awesome RPG, but it's also like, you know, you can feel the double A-ness of it, right? Whereas like Clockwork Revolution, which maybe it's coming out next year or the year after, you just watch the trailers and you can just see how much of a step up that studio's made. That is a huge step up, I think, for that studio, and I don't think we can deny that, right? I think it's a big step up for that studio. So I do think more and more studios will step up to that quality bar that people expect. I'm also really intrigued. Like, does Fable hit that quality bar? You know, Playground Games, obviously a very, very talented studio, but they've only made racing games. They've never made a game that has like a narrative or a story. And you know, and I know Forza Horizon games kind of have like some rudimentary sort of narrative, but it's like actually making a game that has like an emotional depth and emotional impact and characters you care about and all that kind of stuff. That's like a different level. So, you know, maybe we see Playground Games reach that quality bar, you know. Um yeah. I suppose the jury's out on some studios like Compulsion, like can they hit that quality bar? Because, you know, South of Midnight, I think like was a step up from We Happy Few, but it was still like that kind of I think it's still not the level of game that I think people want out of Microsoft Studios. And I think didn't South of Midnight ship for a lower price? It wasn't fully priced game, was it? I don't think. But it kind of makes you wonder like what would South of Midnight have needed to achieve to hit full, you know, full price. I think more and more of those studios will hit that level, but it's gonna take time, man. And now we've got Septic Sauce in chat being a little troll with the Xbox dead. Septic's on that hate train. Oh man. When all the other Xbox kept content creators have moved on, it'll just be me left. With me left and you guys, and we'll be in our like 60s and 70s and 80s in the Xbox retirement home, talking about the good old days of Windows Phone and all that shit. It'll be just us left. And guys will be trolling. Guys will be trolling. So JJ Gamester says Xbox used 76 billion to buy existing entities that Xbox and Sim already had. For the record, 286 GTA 5s could be made with that money. Nintendo and Sony create with a fraction of that. Why not Xbox? Well, the thing is, you gotta understand about this. It's not like they purchased that and then the money vanished. They invested the money into ABK. They purchased the shares, right? So they invested that money to acquire the revenue from that platform with the view that it will be profitable for them over time. And that strategically speaking, having access to games like Candy Crush, all that kind of stuff, really gives them presence across the whole gaming sphere, universe. You know, they've got a presence on mobile now, they've got a presence on this, presence on that. They've got a foot in the door of every ecosystem going. They've got every genre on lockdown. They got Minecraft, they got Call of Duty, whatever. They can like maintain, hopefully, the business and some of their hardware ambitions using the revenue from all that shit, right? I don't think 76 GTAs could be made with that money because there's a finite amount of developers out there and a finite amount of GTAs you could make. So like sometimes like just throwing money at a problem isn't the solution, you know. Like Microsoft could have invested $76 billion into AI infrastructure and stuff like that. But does that actually like lead to a product that generates that return? I don't think it is. You know, like AI companies right now are really struggling to figure out how to make a return on that shit. Whereas like if you invest 76 billion into Call of Duty and World of Warcraft and all that kind of stuff, you've got the business model there. You know exactly how it's going to make the money. And they would have done, I would have hopefully they would have done the math on how long they can, how long it would take to, for that investment to end up being multiple times over profitable. So, you know, it's not just about where do we throw this money, because you can throw 76 billion at anything. You know, it's about where your return on investment's coming from. So there's a plurality of strategic considerations with regards to having ownership over that stuff. You know, and the question is that stuff going to benefit the current customers? You know, I don't think any Xbox fans out there give a shit about Candy Crush. I could be wrong. Do we have any hardcore Candy Crush fans in here? I know Gaz is a fucking hardcore Candy Crush player. Gaz is like Candy Crush esports pro, you know, but I think most Xbox players, like, they don't care about Candy Crush and that kind of shit, right? But getting stuff like World of Warcraft onto Xbox, people might care about that. Or maybe getting World of Warcraft into Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription so they don't have to pay for 2 subscriptions. You know, that's something. You know, making sure that you have a presence on other companies' storefronts, regardless of how well they're doing. You take a cut of that action as well, you know. Call of Duty dominates PlayStation Store. You know, I think the sales came out for Battlefield today, and they weren't even as good as last year's Call of Duty for the same month. So there's an obvious reason why they wanted to acquire that shit. It guarantees the future of the entity that is Xbox. Whether that includes hardware, I don't know. I think that's really like the contention here. But as a Warcraft player, you can already feel right now how much better WoW has been since the strategic changes and Bobby Kotick not being involved. I think Blizzard is at least one company that will thrive in this universe, at least in the short term. Maybe not in the long term, but the Blizzard games seem to all be doing so much better without Kotick. All Kotick cared about was Call of Duty, and I think you kind of like that was reflected in Activision's portfolio. So, you know, I think there'll be plus points and negative points with regards to that investment, like anything really. But we'll see how it goes, man. We'll see how it goes. JJ Gamester says, why not make the IPs? Buying existing market takes away from the market fluidity. I mean, we've seen Microsoft try to make IPs. Making new IPs hard. Amazon, like Jason Schreier put out today that, you know, you're probably gonna see Amazon shut down the developer behind New World Eternum. You know, how much money has Amazon thrown at that game and it just not materialized into anything serious? You know, new IP's hard. And oh shit, my game's crashed. I've been disconnected. I think that's God telling me to go to bed. New IP is hard, but it's not just that it's hard, it's that like penetrating some established genres is impossible. Like, how many World of Warcraft killers have there been over the last 20 years? There's been so many games that have come and gone and tried to penetrate the subscription-based MMO market, and all of them have fallen before World of Warcraft. The only one that ever gave it a wobble was Final Fantasy XIV, and that was thanks to the might of the Final Fantasy IP and the absolute shit show that was World of Warcraft Shadowlands. And now even Final Fantasy XIV's fallen beneath the might of Warcraft. So I think if you want to own some of those verticals, you have to buy in. You know, there's never going to be a game that competes with World of Warcraft, at least not in the near future. Like, every game that tries to compete with Call of Duty just, you know, doesn't head on. These kind of games, like, they're sort of beyond being your typical game that you think of. Like, a lot of like traditional core gamers, we play a game, we finish it, we move on. But there are so many people out there who just play FIFA, Call of Duty, Fortnite, Minecraft, day in, day out, or they sort of switch between a handful of service games, you know. Microsoft didn't acquire games and franchises, they acquired entire business models. World of Warcraft is not a game, it's a business. Like, Minecraft is not a game, it's a business. You know, selling maps and shit, and the subscription model, all that kind of stuff. That's really what they're acquiring, some of that. If we end up like having new games on top of that, then it's cool, you know. And JJ Gamester, if you can't create in the gaming industry, is it fair to say you don't belong in the space? Well, I think Microsoft's proven that it can create in the industry. Um, there are plenty of games that Microsoft has put out and greenlit since they acquired them that did emerge high quality. You know, The Outer Woods 2, pretty much created entirely under Microsoft. Keeper, pretty much created entirely under Microsoft. That both of those just were hit over 80 Metacritic. You know, but even if you are just sort of throwing money at a problem, you still have to hire the developers. And those, even if you're not acquiring the studio, then you're acquiring the talent, you know. So I'm not sure what you're suggesting is that should Microsoft fund the education of new developers and then have them make new games? Because either you're acquiring the talent via employment or you're acquiring the studio all up, you know. Either way, you're spending money on developers that are established in the space, I don't know. It's an interesting discussion, but I do think like no one can deny that Xbox first party is in a much better state than it was a few years ago. So, Stone Patrol says, "I never really played Minecraft. What way do they sell? What do they sell to make money? So you can buy maps and shit with Minecoins, and there are companies that are multi-million-dollar companies, and all they do is make maps for Minecraft. It's crazy, man. It's crazy, bro. But yeah, guys, we've been disconnected from Warcraft, and that's karma telling me I need to log off and go to bed. Thank you so much for joining me. For everyone who super chatted, anyone who checked out Patreon, all that kind of stuff. Really appreciate all you guys. Thanks for helping me get through 30 or so boring world quests. And hopefully I'll see you on Thursday for the proper Xbox 2 show. So take care, everybody. I'll see you next time. Keep it gaming, as Rat says.